Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto grows stronger, council demands. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by DanielNieves and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Outside Uchiha District. October 10th, 1109 Northeast. Never had the boy hated Konoha like he did then, there, and now. The desolate moonlight left a shady reflection in the boy's eyes. The idiotic villagers deemed it to ruin his 9th birthday, which really didn't surprise the kid, they ruined it every year as far back as he could remember. Today was October 10, the 9th anniversary of the Kyuubi's defeat, which as you know, was his birthday. The boy was far from stupid, he knew himself to be the container for the fearsome Kyuubi no Kitsune. Despite the fact that he was intelligent, it didn't take long to realize the coincidence of Kyuubi's defeat, as well as the day of birthday. That and there was usually a malignant voice in the back of his mind, prodding, pushing him to do things, bad things. One thing he'd never understand, as he laid there, beaten and limp like a broken puppet, he wondered about the intelligence of the villagers. Since, he the pariah happened to be the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, why did they insist on beating him and mistreating him? The human mind is fragile in itself, and one wrong blow could unleash the Kyuubi upon the villagers, supposing his 9-year-old body could harness the raw power of the Kyuubi. As the villagers gathered around his body, the 9-year-old wondered perhaps it'd be best if he showed the villagers who the real demon was. He betted that maybe they'd stop beating him then if he could rip their innards out and hang them on it. Then he'd laugh maniacally and watch as they gagged on their own blood, slowly choking, the life leaving their eyes. He knew it was pointless to scream, they'd beat him some more. It was better for them to think he was dead, that and his throat was sore for the previous screams. Despite how unequivocally evil the Kyuubi was, he knew it was time to heal the boy, doing it only out of self-preservation. The raw power of chakra that was running through the boy's coils was enough to send the bastards running, and there lay a 9-year-old boy, beaten, broken, and bereft of his hopes and dreams of being Hokage. The 9-year-old boy, beaten and bloodied, laying outside the Uchiha district like some dog, ironically enough, the villagers had taken his eyes. There had definitely been shinobi in the crowd, Naruto knew that since it had been a kunai that slashed across his eyes and then gouged out. A kunai had robbed the kid of his precious eyesight. His throat hoarse he laid there, waiting to die, but God was in a jovial mood, since death never came. 2. Staring into his little brother's one-tomoed Sharingan for the last time, Itachi disappeared, tears welling in his eyes. His mission was complete and he finally stepped out of the district's entrance before breaking down, sobbing quietly. He, a 15-year-old Anbu captain, had slaughtered his entire clan, save for his little Itato Sasuke. He had to make sure Sasuke never forgot, and with his Manjikyu Sharingan, he had used Tsukuyomi on him, forcing Sasuke to relive the slaughter of his clan. It had been cruel but necessary, done to force Sasuke to foster hate for him, so he could redeem Itachi by killing him when he was older. All was set, now he just had to gather up his bearings and find Uchiha Madara at the Valley of the End. Lost in his own pain, it took him several moments to hear the soft sobbing and sniveling of a young boy. Itachi hardened his gaze and stared at the kid, who had apparently been attacked. Though it would have been next to impossible to hide in that atrociously orange jumpsuit, Itachi thought. Recognizing the blonde hair immediately, he knew who the boy was, the 4th Hokage's legacy, his son. Though he doubted the boy knew it, the only reason Itachi knew this was because as Anbu captain, he had access to highly classified to top secret information. It disgusted him to think of how they treated the boy. While the villagers didn't know of the boy's parentage, they knew he was the container for the Kyuubi and had mistreated him severely for it. Itachi walked over to him and nearly gasped in shock, they had taken the boy's eyes clean with a kunai from the looks of it. How could they? Itachi's black eyes began to change into the form of the Manjikyu out of anger. The boy had been beaten and then urinated on, then they gouged out his eyes with a kunai, meaning shinobi had been involved as well. All on the boy's 9th birthday. Itachi never really cared for the boy, simply because as Anbu captain, he never really had the time to interact with the Jinchuriki, but the boy looked to be Sasuke's age. Who's there? The boy called out fearfully, trying to scramble up to his feet. Feeling bad about the situation, Itachi reached and pulled the boy up to his feet. Uchiha Itachi, ex-Anbu captain. He replied shortly. Itachi-san, are you here to hurt me too? The boy said, his arms shooting out to feel his immediate surroundings. Looking at the boy, Itachi could only see his brother Sasuke and how he had hurt him. Wrapping the boy up in a fierce hug, he hugged him like he could never hug his little brother. No Naruto, I'm not here to hurt you. Itachi said calmly, his eyes watering slightly. Why not? The boy bursted out angrily, fighting against Itachi's embrace. I'm the Kyuubi, I don't deserve to be loved or cared for. I'm not supposed to have dreams like everyone else. Please just kill me, Itachi-san. Naruto begged, blood oozing out of his punctured orifices. You are just a weapon, nothing else, you cannot have dreams, you are not meant to be loved, nor should you love anyone else. You are a shinobi. Anzu's words never left the young Uchiha, he had always taken it to heart, living solely by the old decrepit bastard's words. If you're not gonna kill me, just give me a kunai, I'll do it myself. Naruto spat at him, reaching with outstretched arms. Itachi's heart broke for the boy, it was so cold that someone at his age had to live such a hated life. What was your dream? Itachi asked, releasing the boy. To be Hokage, that was my dream. Naruto said sadly, now all I want to do is protect myself, but I'm blind. How am I supposed to defeat what I can't see? I can't even become a shinobi now, that's all I wanted, to become a shinobi that made its village proud. Naruto said, sniveling once more as he hung his head down in defeat. Itachi reached into the bag he carried, pulling out a scroll. He had been saving them, as per Madara's instructions, also it was supposed to be a reminder of his actions. But perhaps Shisui would be proud of him. Itachi unsealed the large scroll in his bag, where it poofed out of existence, leaving only a small jar which held two objects. Uchiha Shishui's eyes. Naruto-kun. I'm going to give you your eyesight back, this might hurt a little. Itachi spoke. He opened up the jar and pulled out the first eyeball out. Groaning in disgust he had implanted the first eye into Naruto's socket, sending chakra to his hands. His hands lit up with green chakra and the first eyeball was in. Then he grabbed the other and pushed it in, healing the socket afterwards. Can you see now? Itachi asked. It was blurry for Naruto at first, then clear, better than Naruto had seen before in his life. Naruto nodded and as he looked up to stare into the eyes of his savior, he saw blood-red eyes with what looked like a three-pronged shuriken surrounding the pupil. Thank you Itachi Nyasan. Naruto went to hug him when Itachi used two fingers to poke him in the forehead. Tsukuyomi. Naruto was immediately thrown into the Jinjutsu. Naruto-kun, this is my world of Tsukuyomi, in here 3 days is only a second on the outside, I will do what no one has ever done, I will show you the truth about you. Naruto-kun, when I poked you in the head, I transferred part of my power to you. Now, let me show you what happened. After the technique was dispelled, Naruto blacked out. Itachi grabbed him and shunshined away, dumping Naruto at the hospital near the Hokage's office, then he left, never again looking at Konoha. Sarutobi-sama, you better take care of Naruto and Sasuke. Both are vital to my redemption. 3. Naruto woke up the next day, still a bit sore. He was back in a hospital, which in itself was pretty common. Brushing a stray hair out of his eyes, he grimaced remembering the dreams that he had of some giant conspiracy in Konoha, the reason why he was so hated. In the dream the villagers took his eyes and some Uchiha named Itachi gave him his sight back. Staring into a mirror and no longer seeing his typical azure color, now replaced by twin green orbs. Apparently the dreams had been real as well as everything else Itachi showed him. Naruto stood up, ripping out the IVs in his arms, they tried to kill him before by pouring lead into the IVs. Seconds later a nurse and few mednin came bursting in to stop him. Naruto barreled through them, leaving the hospital. He hurried out of there and made his way to the Hokage tower. Are you here to see the Hokage? A Chunin by the name of Genma asked. Yes, Genma-san. Naruto replied shortly, looking down at the deck. Genma nodded in surprise, Naruto never had been that polite nor stood that still before. Something was off with the boy. Genma then allowed access, Naruto walked down the halls, no glimmer in his eyes, no fake smile plastered to his whiskered face. Today he was unequivocally him. No more hiding his emotions behind a cheerful, idiotic exterior. Naruto knocked on the Sandame's door. Come in. Came the curt reply. Naruto opened the door and stepped inside. Aheo Sandame-sama. Naruto said offhandedly, giving the Hokage a small bow. The Hokage was perplexed. He knew Naruto was never formal with anyone and he never bowed to no one. Are you alright Naruto-kun? I heard about the attack last night. The aged Hokage said, looking at Naruto rather sadly. I'm alive, am I not? Naruto asked dismissively. Alive isn't everything, for what it's worth I'm sorry Naruto-kun. Sarutobi apologized to the boy. I find that hard to believe today, Hokage-sama. Naruto replied calmly. The Hokage's sad features turned into an angry snarl. What did you say? He demanded. I don't think you're too regretful, Lord Sarutobi. I constantly get beaten up and nearly killed, but what have you done about it? You create a law that you don't enforce and then the villagers get scared less by it. I don't pretend to be your grandson, nor do I pretend to think you actually care about me on more than an impersonal level. Most likely you never will. Naruto finished. The Sandane was stunned to say the least. Naruto-kun, I'm sorry if it doesn't seem like much to you. The third Hokage said calmly, seeing as Naruto had made some perfect points. He indeed had created a law that forbade anyone to mistreat him or mention that he was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, yet it was never really enforced. The villagers would go to jail for a few days and then released again. The supposed hero of the village, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, son to Namikaze Minato, and yet that didn't stop them from gouging out my eyes. Naruto yelled, green eyes turning blood red with one tomo in each eye. I've had it with this village, the next time I get attacked by anyone, Leaf Nin included, I will fight back and I will kill if I have to. This is my law, my new Nindo. No one has done anything to help me, except for Uchiha Itachi, and he has shown me the truth. I'm disappointed, Hokage-sama. Where did you get all this information from? The Sandaime asked. The well that never went dry. The only person honest to me in Konoha, and that definitely wasn't you. Naruto replied coldly, suddenly bursting into smoke, forcing the Hokage to realize that he'd been talking with a Kage Bunshin. Where the hell is Naruto going? Sarutobi asked out loud. IV. 3 days later. Sasuke didn't want to get up out of bed. Here in his comfortable king-size bed, he could pretend. He could pretend his mother was downstairs cooking bacon and eggs for breakfast and that father would be ready for another round of the fireball jutsu. Big brother would be in the woods practicing his shuriken technique, ready to carry Sasuke around on his back when he'd hurt his ankle later. All he had to do was stay in bed and he could pretend. Itachi Nyasen wouldn't have killed all the Uchihas, Sasuke thought, dismissing the notion that his big brother could do something like that. Sunlight filtered in through an open curtain and snuck its way into Sasuke's eyes, blinding him for a second. He could only pretend for so long. He stood up out of bed, subconsciously rubbing his forehead where big brother used to always jam him. They're all really gone, Sasuke thought, falling to his knees on the side of the bed, offering a prayer for his clan. Thinking about it all caused tears to well up in his eyes, so he didn't, quickly pushing the thoughts of the Uchiha massacre. Run, little brother, run. Cling to your pathetic excuse of your life for nothing other than killing me. Foster all you hate and devotion to me so that one day we can fight again. I'm your big brother, Sasuke. I'll always be there for you, even if it's only as an obstacle for you to overcome. Hot tears flooded his eyes, numbing his cheeks. Big brother, Sasuke panted out, sobbing, gripping the edge of his bed tightly. Why? Why did you do this? Off in the distance, he heard a knock on his door. Wondering exactly who'd be knocking on his door today, Sasuke stood up and headed towards the door, wiping the evidence of his tears to the best of his knowledge. Opening the door, he was surprised by the sight that greeted him. It was that Dobe, the Uzumaki kid from class. Dobe, what are you doing here? Sasuke asked, head hung low to pretend he hadn't been crying. Sasuke, I'm sorry to hear about your family. The blond boy said sincerely, brushing an unruly lock of spiky hair out of his eyes. Sasuke stared at him, something seemed to be off. Especially his eyes. Rather than the usual vibrant blue, Naruto's eyes seemed to be some sort of jade, and that was a color Sasuke only saw on a few people. Naruto seemed to be dressed in funeral attire, with some sort of black ceremonial guy, black shinobi sandals, and a black jacket. What's with the clothes, Dobe? Sasuke asked, feigning annoyance. He had to get going anyway, the Uchiha's funeral was in an hour. It's part of the reason I'm here, Sasuke. I know it's hard to lose everything, and even though we aren't friends, perhaps you'd like me to accompany you to the funeral? Naruto asked honestly. Why do you even care to? Sasuke snapped at the outlandish question. Well, mainly cause there's gonna be a bunch of old codgers there, people who didn't really care too much for the Uchihas, talking because they like the sound of their own voices and whatnot, and perhaps you'd want someone to be there for you. It sucks to be alone, to lose it all, and that I know, so I felt really bad when I heard about what happened. Sasuke pondered it for a second. Was the boy offering him his friendship? What did he have to gain out of it? Why? Sasuke asked, tears welling in his eyes again. Both my parents died on the night of the Kyuubi, and all my life I've lived alone, hated by all the villagers, and knowing that you lost it all, just compelled me to be here, because knowing there's someone out there like me kills me, because I wouldn't wish this on anybody. Naruto explained, tears welling up in his own eyes. You really wish to accompany on this? Sasuke asked timidly. Naruto nodded. Let me put on the Uchiha ceremonial clothes, and then we'll head out. Can I offer you something to drink? Sasuke asked. Yeah, some water would be cool. It's kinda hot out here. Sasuke nodded, and the two of them stepped into the house. The dark bitter day lessened, now that Sasuke had a friend to help him through the pain. The Sandaime sat back in his chair, puffing on a pipe, blowing the smoke through his nostrils. He sighed wearily, being the Hokage wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Old he might be, but he was not senile, and he was pretty sure he wasn't hallucinating. That bastard Asuma better have not laced my tobacco again, the Hokage thought. Uzumaki Naruto had really just stormed up into his office and exclaimed boldly that he knew of his heritage. It was bad enough that Sarutobi had always felt guilty over the years about the fourth seconds legacy and his treatment, but alas, he was too old to make such an effort to make the village see him as a hero. He basically had tossed a poor boy out into the open world, hanging him out to dry, and despite the fact that he had assured the village that they were safe from the Kyuubi because of Naruto, they still saw the boy as the Yandame's killer. He didn't blame them for missing the prodigy that was Namikaze Minato. He had been a better Hokage than Sarutobi ever was. He had been so young and full of talent, literally brimming with it, to only die so young. Life was never fair. Minato had been a prime example of the will of fire, constantly throwing his life on the line, as he had been the huge tide turning during the Konoha-Iwa War. Sarutobi remembered as he stood in front of the incoming platoons of Iwa Nin. How calmly he stood there, while his platoon of Konoha Nin shook in fear. His calamity unbroken, he handed them a three-pronged kunai and told them to throw it if they ever needed him. Then he launched hundreds of the very same three-pronged kunai and disappeared in a yellow flash, slaughtering wherever he went. Minato's actions in the war against Iwa was what made him choose him over Orochimaru as a successor to the Hokage mantle. Orochimaru was a genius, with huge amount of talent and a successful Sannin. But there had just been something wrong with the man. Orochimaru had been 36 at the time Sarutobi had picked Minato, and even now he could still remember his disciples' outrage. Why Sarutobi-sensei? What does he have that I don't? I have always strived to become Yandame Hokage to Konoha, and you're going to pass the mantle on to that kid. Some no-named orphan from a megacure. When I Orochimaru am a Sannin, a prodigy, the kind that comes once in a while, yet you give it to that good-for-nothing Jounin. Tell me why, damn it. Why, Sarutobi-sensei? Orochimaru cried out in anger. Because there's never been a shinobi like Namikaze Minato, and there will never be one like him again. With no apprentice or nothing to keep him in Konoha, Orochimaru left, never to be seen again. Yet Sarutobi still remembered the pale-faced boy who arrogantly tried taking his bells 38 years ago. Sarutobi knew he hadn't been the best sensei to the group, but he had done his best. It had been his promise to the Shodaime to do the very best. Sandaime knew he had faults. He was perverted like Jiraiya, possibly even more so, though the Gamma Sannin had been perverted since the first day Sarutobi met him. If only he had been a better teacher from the get-go. Jiraiya had been Sarutobi's second biggest regret, the first being Jiraiya's godson, Uzumaki Naruto. "Raito-san." The aging Kage called out. The scarred Chunin headed in immediately. "Yes, Lord Hokage." "Summon the council, now." "Do." Naruto and Sasuke sat on the edge of a small wooden bridge overlooking the lake in the Uchiha district. "Sasuke-san, we have much to discuss," Naruto said, looking over at the 9-year-old boy. The dark-haired boy turned to look at his only true friend, quirking his eyebrows, wondering what was so pertinent. "What do you want to discuss, Naruto?" Sasuke said, kicking his legs as they stared into the lake. "Uchiha Itachi is not what you think he was, and neither am I," Naruto began, neon green eyes boring down into the Uchiha's black ones. Sasuke's brows furrowed, his eyes narrowing in disgust at the mere mention of his brother. It had been a day since the funeral, and he didn't want to lose his friend. He'd hear him out. "Speak. What are you talking about?" Sasuke commanded, his eyes on the verge of watering as he began to think of what his brother had shown him, how he emotionlessly killed the whole Uchiha clan, Sasuke's parents included. "I'll start by telling you about me, it's shorter than Itachi's story, anyway." Naruto started, the Uchiha's full attention on him now. "You've heard about the Kyuubi, right?" Sasuke nodded, "Yeah, the Yondaime defeated it, right?" "No, he didn't, Sasuke. For the most part, Kyuubi is made up yokai, infinite demonic chakra, which constantly healed its injuries, making him utterly invincible. Now the Yondaime, knowing he couldn't kill it, decided it to seal it into something, and it had to be a newborn baby, or else the seal wouldn't hold and it'd release the Kyuubi all over again. Why? Because of the yokai, if it's sealed within a grown adult, the body doesn't have time to adjust to it and the coils break, destroying the body from the inside and releasing the Kyuubi out into the world again. Now if you'd seal it within a baby, it would take effect because babies don't have developed chakra coils, so therefore the yokai can settle and the Kyuubi locked away." "How do you know?" Realization crawled up Sasuke's face. "You have the Kyuubi sealed away in you?" Naruto nodded. "Why do you think the village hates me so? All my life, people beated me up, I couldn't shop for my own food, so I had to nick it. The academy teachers refused to teach me, so I didn't learn much there, and last Sunday, I nearly died during the festival, the night when Itachi-san wiped the Uchiha clan out." Naruto stopped for a second, panting hard, remembering as an Anbu nin slashed down on him, kunai tearing into his eyes. Tears began to fall from Naruto's face. "Why? Why did the Yondaime force you to suffer this, why not a different baby?" Sasuke asked. "Who are your parents, Naruto?" Naruto stared at him for a second. "Sasuke, all this we're talking about now is highly classified, an SS rank secret, it can never leave us." Naruto said coldly, looking around him, scanning the area in paranoia. I don't know my mother, Sasuke. But my father was the Yondaime, Namikaze Minato of Konoha. Sasuke gasped in realization. Of course. He sacrificed his own son, unable to ask another parent to make the sacrifice. Sasuke thought. Your father's the Yondaime, Naruto. But then why do the villagers hate you so? You still haven't answered my other question. How did you almost die? Sasuke demanded once more. I think that the villagers don't know of my parentage. They only see me as the Kyuubi, no, not the Kyuubi, but as the container. They think that because all that evil is stored within me, they hate me. They hate me because they can't hate the Kyuubi. They beat me because they can't beat the Kyuubi. The night of the festival, my 9th birthday, I was attacked once more by few villagers and a few leaf nin. They beat me up for a bit, nothing out of the ordinary, but the last one, that hawk-masked nin, he took my eyes, Sasuke, and left me to die. What do you mean, you have your eyes now? As I laid there dying, the Kyuubi began healing me, but it couldn't repair my eyes. Itachi had just left the district and ran into me. We talked for a bit and then he healed me. He didn't leave me there like some kind of crippled leper, like most of Konoha see fit to do, but he gave me these eyes that belonged to someone you knew close. These eyes are the eyes of Uchiha Shisui, and I now wield the Sharingan, as if I were another Uchiha. Naruto finished, turning to Sasuke, green eyes flickering, then disappearing before the Sharingan blazed brightly, twin blood-red orbs staring back into Sasuke's widened eyes. My brother Itachi Niasen had eyes like those. Sasuke stared at the Yondaime's son. You said I knew nothing of Itachi, please tell me. Tell me why he killed my family, why did he kill them all? Sasuke cried out, tears falling freely. He remembered the blood, its nasty metallic stink filling the air, suffocating him as he tried to run. Bodies littering the ground like discarded trash. Why did Itachi do it? After Itachi gave me Shisui-sen's eyes, he used the Tsukuyomi on me and revealed a few things. Then he gave me part of his power, not enough to weaken him, but enough to give me a few jutsus and certain knowledge. The latter was unintentional I believe, but Itachi gave me a few key memories, and when I unlocked them it was like living them all over again. Naruto said. Please. What memories? Sasuke begged. Uchiha Itachi, Anbu captain was ordered to kill your family by Danzu, Hamura, and Kaharu, key members of the village council. Danzu was the head of the Anbu and the village's defense tactician. Danzu found out that your father Uchiha Fugaku and several other Uchihas were planning a coup d'etat, a rebellion in a sense. Fugaku was going to kill me to release the Kyuubi and kill the Sandaime and force his way into the Godaime position. No, my father wouldn't do that. Sasuke spat at him, standing up off the bridge and glaring daggers at Naruto. I knew my father. Just like you knew Itachi. I'm not sure what your father's mental state was prior, but he had been visited by the founder of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Madara. Madara had been the sole conspirer behind the Kyuubi attack, he had summoned it and set it loose on Konoha. He used the same technique he used on Itachi and gave part of his power and his memories to Fugaku, who in turn would set the Kyuubi on Konoha once again. Naruto explained. The Tausen was being used by Madara? Sasuke asked. Yes. Madara hated the village because they all conspired, including the Uchihas, to keep him out of the Hokage seat. Angry by the betrayals of the Uchihas, he unleashed the Kyuubi and then he decided to destroy from the inside out. By giving your father a minuscule amount of power and memories, it was enough to trigger him into believing that the village had them there as trained dogs and nothing more. So Danzu and the village leaders sent Itachi on an undercover mission to kill your clan, all of your clan. The third opposed, but the council decided to do it anyway. They distracted the third by hiring some thugs to attack me, the Sandaime's biggest regret, while Itachi destroyed the clan. Except he left you alive, because he couldn't kill you, you were the person he loved the most, so he left you alive, tortured you, so you could hate him so much that he'd be killed by you, and in a sense, redeem him for killing the clan. Sasuke cried as Naruto finished his story. Tears kept falling from his face. How horrible it must have been for his brother to have to go through all that. He had been alone. He loved me so much that he disobeyed a direct order and left me alive. Itachi Niasen, why? Sasuke turned his tear-streaked cheeks to the pariah of Konoha. What do you mean, you're the Sandaime's biggest regret? When father sealed the Kyuubi in me, he asked that I'd be seen as a hero for containing the Kyuubi, but Konoha's disgraced his memory by doing the opposite. Sarutobi made a few laws that prevented the village from taking action against me, but he never really enforced it. So I've been beaten and alone all my life because he didn't do his job as Hokage, because he didn't follow through with my dad's last wishes, it's why I'm his biggest regret. The council used it to their advantage and paid a few thugs to beat me during the festival, but when a few nin that bear bad will against me saw this, they jumped in and took my eyes. Naruto explained, standing up and stretching. So in essence, we've both got some payback to deliver to the council. Sasuke asked, smiling wickedly. Yeah, but only a few of those old bastards. We'll have payback, they'll pay tenfold for what they did to us both. Naruto said smiling, his Sharingan eyes shining brightly as he pictured all he could do to the council. But I'm too weak as it is right now. Sasuke complained. I know. Naruto said, staring at the dark-haired boy. Suddenly the two tomos began spinning wildly, merging with one another, forming a three-pointed shuriken. Mangekyou Sharingan. No, merely a variant. But nowhere near as powerful as the real thing. Naruto said, running through a set of hand seals. What are you doing? Sasuke asked. Giving you half the power Itachi Nai gave to me. Naruto spoke, and then a jet black crow erupted from his mouth and entered Sasuke's. Sasuke screamed for a second, his jet black eyes turning red in the early stages of the Sharingan, before turning into the Mangekyou, then back to normal. I suggest that you don't use the Mangekyou Sharingan. Both of us are novices to it, as well as the normal Sharingan, and the strain it puts on us is enormous, making it ineffective, or rather useless. It will take years before we can even use it properly. Naruto said. Bits of memories from both Itachi and Naruto flooded Sasuke for a second, and any doubt that Sasuke might have had was quelled as he saw the memories himself. We have company. Sasuke said pointedly. I noticed him a few seconds ago. You can come out now, Anbu-san. Naruto exclaimed loudly. The masked Anbu nin with spiky gray hair came out from behind a tree, reading an orange-clad book. Uzumaki Naruto, the council demands your presence. The wolf mask Anbu said. Why should I trust you? I could care less of the council's demand. Naruto growled out, but Sasuke placed a hand on his arm. Go with them, I'll follow behind. Naruto nodded. I was told to bring you by force if necessary, Uzumaki. The Anbu replied calmly, his eyes never leaving the book. It won't be necessary, Anbu-san. Naruto replied, walking towards him. Seconds later, both disappeared, heading towards Hokage Tower. 3. Naruto stood in front of the council's chamber, located next to the Hokage's office. He knew the protocol, he was supposed to knock 3 times and wait for a response. When told to come in he headed in there, pop to attention and wait for further instructions. Naruto on the other hand, cared little for protocol. Instead of knocking, he instead strolled in, facing the council with indifference. He did not pop to attention. Instead he created a cage bunshin and made it hinge into a chair, which Naruto laid out on lazily. Uzumaki Naruto. You are to stand at attention. Danzu snapped, standing out of his chair in anger. I will do no such thing, Danzu-san. Naruto replied evenly, making himself comfortable on the chair. It's Danzu-sama to you, Uzumaki. Are you refusing to obey a direct order? Danzu asked angrily. I have no need to follow such stupid requests, nor will I comply if I had to, Danzu-san. Naruto replied, just as calmly. Danzu, shut up and sit down. We have a meeting to begin. The Sandaime Sarutobi shouted. Danzu gave him a cross look before sitting down. Naruto, why are you refusing to stand while speaking to the council? The Sandaime asked. Simple. I'm not gonna stand here, will you sit? I'm in no way or shape inferior to any of you, even you Sandaime Ajisan. If you old bastards can sit, then so will I, Naruto said. One of the council members leapt up to his feet, charging at the boy. Haruno Zaku if Naruto's memory served correctly. Die, demon. Zaku charged, sliding a kunai from a sleeved shirt, taking a swipe at the boy. Naruto stood to his feet and then froze. Zaku halted for a second. Last chance old man. Naruto said calmly. Zaku charged once more, kunai in hand and thrusted it to Naruto's face, killer intent leaking in the room. Without using his Sharingan eyes, Naruto tracked the movement and speed of the attack and grabbed the kunai. Zaku swung his other hand and Naruto ducked underneath the hand holding the kunai, snapping the arm with it as he bended the arm behind his back and impaled the man in the back of the head with his own kunai, effectively stapling him to the wall. The old Hokage looked outraged. He stood to his feet in anger and shouted at Naruto. Naruto-kun, you've just killed a council member, a retired jounin at that. The Sandaime yelled. He broke 2 important laws and I was merely defending myself. I told you old man, you created laws that you don't enforce. Not only did he call me demon, but he tried to stab me with a kunai. I told you that the next motherfucker who tried to kill me would die, no exceptions, no mercy. I didn't come here to get attacked, though it doesn't surprise me with a council as dirty and tainted as this one. Naruto growled out. It is as you say. The Sandaime said, defeated. Who are you to come in here and kill a council member? If you would have kept your trap shut and have been respectful then this wouldn't have happened. Inuyasukatsume shouted, standing up. It wouldn't have happened. Naruto said laughing. It has happened every day. You people stand there all judgmental, I was respectful every day to you bastards and instead of showing some respect, even if it had been minimal, it would have been okay. Instead you ostracized me, forcing me to live as an outcast. Kids in the academy hate me because of you people, teachers refuse to teach me, and most importantly, Danzu-sama over there hired some nin to beat me and took my eyes, also he could use Uchiha Itachi to kill the Uchiha clan. Liar. Danzu exclaimed angrily. You hired nins to attack Naruto while Itachi killed his clan. The Sandame asked, turning to his old rival. No. Danzu replied, trying not to get caught. It didn't escape Hyuga Hiashi. He's lying, I can see it with my Byakugan. Hiashi said, standing to his feet as well. How do you know this? Narashikaku asked, watching the boy. After Danzu's thugs took my eyes, Itachi pitied me. He had just finished killing the clan with the exception of Sasuke, he gave me Uchiha Shishui's eyes and transferred some of his power to me, as well as parts of his memories. This is how I know this. What your excuses for your treatment of me? Naruto asked. We wanted to protect our kids, so we told them to stay away from you. No one knows about the Yondame's seal and what it does, for all we know you could be the Kyuubi right now. My father's seal did as it was supposed to. It sealed the Kyuubi away and leaks his Yokai, converting into normal chakra and eventually killing him. If I had died 4 days ago, the Kyuubi would have been released in Konoha again, killing you all. Why did you disgrace my father's last wishes? He asked that I be seen as a hero, and instead you turned me into a fucking pariah. Why did the council disgrace Namikaze Minato and his legacy, his only son? Naruto spat at them, and a few gasped in surprise. We didn't know. No one knew of your heritage. Yamanaka Inoichi said defensively. Look at me. How many kids in Konoha look like him? And even if I hadn't, for the village to treat me as if I were the Kyuubi. How long did you think my sanity would hold for? I don't get it, by all rights I should burn this village to the ground for what you did to me. Well, you bastards ate warm meals, I was denied them, and I had to filter through the garbage like some street urchin. Naruto spat out. He then turned to the Hokage, facing him. Yes, Naruto-kun. Old man, you disappointed me worst of all. You knew who my father was and his last wishes, hell you were there when the Kyuubi attacked. I understand that you didn't want Iwa to hunt me down as the sole heir to the Namikaze clan. I understand. Honestly. But what happened to the duties of a Hokage, Nasandame Jiji? Naruto asked angrily, tears sliding down his cheeks. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? The Sandame asked, his face falling at the sight of the boy's tears. He was just a boy who had to endure such hells, and even then it hadn't completely broken him. As Hokage, it is your duty to protect every single person in the village. I love everyone in this village like a family, it is why the will of fires never die. Naruto recited, it was almost as if he was disgusted with the very words the Sandame once spoke to him. What about me, Gramps? How come I wasn't protected? 9 years I've endured the beatings and rarely did I receive help. I was attacked by the fucking Anbu for fuck's sake. What about my will of fire? All I wanted was to be just like you and the Yondaime, a hero, someone the village could be proud of. What about my dreams, old man? Do you even care? Naruto cried out, drying his teary eyes with his sleeve. What about the man you just killed? Haruno Zaku, he had a family and now you leave his daughter fatherless. How are you that different from the Kyuubi? Akimichi Chauza asked, glaring at him. I've been fatherless and motherless for 9 years, I'm sure Sakura will survive. Naruto snapped in reply. Are you quite done with the pity deity, Naruto? Danzu asked, standing up and walking towards the boy. Sharingan blazing, Naruto faced him with an equal glare. Perhaps it might sound like I'm a whiny bitch to you. If you had to live it, would you survive? Tsukuyomi. Naruto yelled, sending Danzu spiraling into a vivid genjutsu. Where are we? Danzu asked. This is my world, the world of Tsukuyomi, where one day here lasts a second out there. Let's see if you're as tough as you claim to be, Danzu. He wasn't. One day of Naruto's life was enough to leave him screaming and sobbing on the floor at the council's feet. The council had mixed reactions, some were disgusted, some watched in awe. What had he done to Danzu to leave him a screaming mess on the deck? Enough, Naruto. The Sandame commanded angrily. I released the technique seconds ago. It seems that Danzu didn't like living life through my life for a day. Naruto replied. That's all you did? Inuzukatsu asked. Naruto nodded. What is it that you want? Sandame asked. Normality. I just want to live my life, become a genin without wondering who will attack next. Was that too much to ask? Naruto demanded. Explain. Hiashi commanded. A normal childhood. I want you to stress to the villagers, the Anbu and everyone the ramifications in another attack against this village. Explain the fucking seal that the Yondaime created solely to kill the Kyuubi. I'm not asking you to tell the world I'm the Yondaime's son, it's not time for that yet, but I wish for normality, rather than hypocrisy. Naruto finished. Naruto turned to leave. Naruto. The Sandame called out to him before he could go. Yay? Naruto asked, without turning around. It really saddens me. You're nothing like your father. The strength might be there, but everything else. The Sandame trailed off, his own eyes watering. I know. You know the funny thing is. You could have changed that. All of you. And with that Naruto was gone. What are we gonna do about Danzu and the perpetrators? Hiashi asked. For Danzu, life in prison with no parole. For Koharu and Himura and any person involved in the attack against Uzumaki Naruto, public execution. The Sandame spat out. Life just got interesting in Konoha. IV. Time skip. 3 years. Hokage's office. Finally the Hokage made his decisions on the new Genin squad. It had taken time, but he finally found purposes for the rookie 9. For hours he looked at the stats and skills and usefulness, factoring in Kekkei Genkais, as well as clan jutsus. This was what he could come up with. Infiltration squad Jounin Sensei Mido Guy. Yamanaka Ino fangirl Kunoichi whose main use lays in her Yamanaka mind techniques. Nara Shikamaru, a replica of his father, particular lazy and unmotivated, but has firm grasp in his clan jutsus. Akamichi Chouji squad powerhouse. Constantly eats like an Akamichi, but truly devoted to his best friend Shikamaru. Very proficient in clan techniques and has the chakra of a Chunin. First strike attack squad Jounin Sensei Midarashi Anko. Uruno Sakura smartest rookie Kunoichi in Konoha. Jinjutsu is on a capable level. Ninjutsu is nearly non-existence as well as Taijutsu. Mediocre medical capabilities are her biggest strength. Aburam Shino a genius, mind is very capable much like Hyuga Niji. Extremely proficient with clan techniques. Taijutsu and Jinjutsu are a weak point. Hyuga Hinata unfit to be a Kunoichi. Proficient in the Hyuga style Taijutsu, but lacks mental capability as well as confidence to be the greatest Kunoichi in Konoha. Both weaknesses are cased by overbearing and pompous father, perhaps her sensei can cure her of it. Heavy assault fighter squad Jounin Sensei Hada Kakashi. Inyazuka Kiba brash and arrogant but extremely proficient in Taijutsu and clan ninjutsu due to close relationship with his puppy Ninkin Akamaru. Uchiha Sasuke well-developed Sharingan, has copied nearly 100 jutsus while attending Chunin exams. Taijutsu and Jinjutsu are off the charts, while his ninjutsu is mediocre. Uzumaki Naruto an enigma. An ninjutsu and chakra powerhouse. Proficient with ninjutsus that are eye-based, others are lacking. Taijutsu is average. It is unknown how many jutsus he knows or copied with Uchiha Shisui Sharingan, supposing it's actually his Sharingan, could it be possible it became Naruto's very own Sharingan? The possibilities are endless. Satisfied with his choices, Sarutobi aimed to find his grandson Konohamaru and play with him. In a world as cold as this one, Sarutobi learned that kids, the future generation of Konoha were very important and should not be neglected. The Konoha Ninja Academy. After Naruto and Sasuke avoided a particular group of some stupid Kunoichi wannabe fangirls and waited for the arrival of Iruka Sensei to tell them who their team would be. Naruto knew that he and Sasuke would probably be on different teams, it would be pretty unfair to have 2 Sharingan users on one team. Sasuke pretty much hoped Sakura wouldn't end up on his team and Naruto hoped Ino wouldn't. Both girls had been chasing after the two of them since that one day they entered the academy as friends. It had been odd once the third Hokage told the people of Konoha about Naruto and exactly what he meant to them. Not much had really changed in the older generation, their hate was far too set on the boy to change, but rather than beat him or pelt him with rocks, they kept their distance, fearing of the Kyuubi escaping its prison and killing them once again. The newer generation seemed to like him a bit more. Rather than turning away from him, a majority thanked him for the sacrifice that he had to make, living as the most hated person in Konoha. Not that he really cared, it was far too late for their appreciation. They hated him too after all. When his teachers refused to teach him, none of them gave him a hand in the first year, except Sasuke. Sasuke had been the one to help him in his first academy weeks, though at the time Naruto himself had been ungrateful and turned Sasuke into the rival he had to beat someday. It's the only reason he had even considered telling him the truth about Itachi, he had felt that Sasuke should know. It's surprising what could happen when Naruto showed up back at the academy, knowing all the answers and dressed up in different clothes than that horrid orange jumpsuit. He had began wearing better clothes and grown his hair out and suddenly he was as popular as Sasuke himself. Before, he used to try so hard to please everyone and they called him annoying. Now when he wakes up, he drinks himself a big cup of fuck it juice and suddenly they notice him. He'd been and still was far too lonely and far too angry to care. Fuck them. Here are the teams. Yumino Iruka said, walking in, giving a small glare to Naruto. He never liked the boy, but for his own safety, he managed to suppress his own anger. His parents had been killed in the Kyuubi attack and he still held a grudge, though he supposed that wasn't the only reason he hated the boy. Mainly, it was because Naruto's visage in itself was blasphemous. The boy looked more like the yondaime everyday once he stopped cutting his hair. Now he wore black ninja pants and sandals and a black sleeveless tight-fitting shirt. There was a yellow sash around his waist, holding a kunai pouch. Adorning his head was the Leaf Village Hit-I-8, he even ditched the original navy blue that had been handed out to them yesterday. Now it was pressed against a long black sash, then wrapped around his forehead and tied in a knot, the two remaining ends hanging down to his mid-back. The yondaime was my hero, and here's this thing, daring to look like him, Iruka thought angrily. Naruto's blonde locks were as unruly and spiky as ever, two blonde locks hanging down the side of his face, and the back end tied into a spiky ponytail. Another reason Iruka hated the boy was because of his apathy. He literally cared for nothing, for nobody except Sasuke. Iruka couldn't get him to train until it was test times, and even then he did the bare minimum to pass, yet Iruka was not stupid, he knew there lied a lot of power, even if it was dormant. For now. Glaring at him now, the boy merely stared at him back, his face unreadable, covered by a veil of calamity. His eyes themselves were expressionless, almost taunting Iruka, as if Iruka was so unimportant that he'd get nothing out of the boy. That really pissed him off. There was little he could do about it. The Hokage warned him not to hold a grudge for the boy and that his life was on the line if he did so. The aging Hokage told him to take it easy on the boy, that while Iruka was hurting from the loss of his parents, the Sandaime reminded him that Naruto never had any. Perhaps he'd been wrong about him. Perhaps he had been the loneliest one of them all, and Iruka was too wrapped up in guilt to see it. He would invite him to some ramen later and talk and try to decipher the blank void that was Uzumaki Naruto. Team 7 consists of Uchiha Sasuke, Inyazuka Kiba, and Uzumaki Naruto. Iruka said as calmly as he could, mimicking the Naruto's demeanor in the hopes or getting the rise out of him. Of course this pissed the fangirls off. I want to be on Sasuke's team. I want to be on Naruto's team. Shut it. Iruka drawled out lazily. He ran through a few more names, but by this time, Naruto was already asleep. A frown marred Iruka's scarred face. That team reaching over to the chalkboard, he picked up a piece of chalk and pelted it at the boy's head. Just before it could touch him, Naruto's hand shot up and grabbed it, squeezing it before the chalk dissolved into nothing but dust. I'm not asleep, Iruka-sensei. More apathy. But Shikamaru is. Ino whined in Naruto's defense. Hey Baka. Iruka pelted another piece and woke the sleeping Nara. Team 7, your Jounin instructor will be Hada Kakashi, he'll be arriving within an hour. Team 8, your Jounin instructor will be Hyuga Akina, Team 9, your Jounin instructor will be Mitarashi Anko, and Team 10, your instructor will be Mito Gai. Iruka finished. Half an hour passed and every team but Team 7 was gone. Where is this Kakashi guy? Kiba asked, as if Sasuke or Naruto could answer. Naruto had engaged Kiba in small talk, since they were teammates after all, it would be best to get a feel for him. I don't know. Naruto replied curtly, spinning a kunai around on his index finger. He too was waiting his sensei's arrival, but for a different reason. Another hour passed and finally, a spiky-haired nin walked through the door. He had gray hair, which was unnaturally spiked to the left, his Hit-I-8 covering his left eye. Kakashi walked in and stared at the kids, seeing Naruto for the first time in years. Minato? Kakashi asked, his face blank. Naruto. Naruto replied, before launching a kunai at Kakashi's face, a sadistic grin marring his boyish features. End of chapter. But the experience a Jounin and Anbu captain could only obtain, Hada Kakashi reached out and gripped the kunai, seconds before it could pierce his eye, spinning around Naruto and giving him a good slap to the back of the head. Save that for later, Naruto. The Jounin said, digging into his pocket for his favorite treat of the day, Icha paradise. God bless Jiraiya-sama, Kakashi thought, before staring at the three students he was supposed to take up. The group did look promising, and that Uzumaki kid, he looked nearly identical to Minato. Thoughts of the past rummaged around Kakashi's brain, and he shook it off, there were other matters that needed tending to. Aheyo, Iro-sensei. Naruto greeted, noticing the orange book. Naruto supposed that Kakashi didn't like that too much, his visible eye glared at him. Not that he cared really. It's Kakashi-sensei, or Kakashi. I'm not that perverted. Kakashi said sternly, ruffling the kid's hair, much to the boy's distaste. He couldn't help it really, the boy looked like a chibi yondaime, there were subtle differences of course, and Naruto had whiskered cheeks and eyes that had no visible life left in its green orbs. Could this boy really be the Kyuubi Jinchuriki? You know it's not nice to show up late, Kakashi-sensei. We've been waiting for 2 hours. Naruto replied. I'm sorry Gaki, I was almost here and got lost on the road of life. Several villagers were trying to attack a scared kitten in a tree, so I naturally had to stop and save him. Kakashi said cheerily, his eye crinkling up into a smile. What are you hiding behind the mask, sensei? Kiba asked. Let's meet up on the roof and introduce ourselves. Kakashi said, vanishing in a puff of smoke. This team could be very promising indeed. Knowing it'd take them a couple seconds to make it to the roof, Kakashi began to read with fervor. Yukani laid on her back, pulling the stranger towards her. Her thighs were sticky with her own juices, its scent rising to the stranger's nose promising a very good night. The stranger was just some 17-year-old villager, a virgin by the guess of it as he fumbled with his zipper nervously. "Hiro-sensei, stop reading that garbage, nah." A loud voice interrupted his thoughts. Naruto and Sasuke were on the roof watching him. Kakashi subtly shifted his pants, hoping none of them would notice. "Wait for me." Kiba yelled, running up the stairs, Akamaru in tow. Kiba joined his two teammates. "You teams have to teach me how to do the shunshin," he said angrily, panting slightly. Kakashi eyed the bows warily. Naruto and Sasuke knew the shunshin already, and they just graduated. How good were they? "Okay, let's start with introductions. I'm Hada Kakashi, I like many things you shouldn't know about yet, I dislike a few things like waiting for the next installment of my favorite book to come, and for hobbies I like to read. I'm an ex-Anbu captain, and possibly your sensei," Kakashi said, noticing the wince on Naruto's face when he mentioned the Anbu. Not that he could blame the boy for his natural distrust of them. He heard all about their attack 3 years ago. "You, the dog boy," Kakashi said bluntly, irritating Kiba and Akamaru. "I am Inuzuka Kiba. I like Akamaru and training with him. I dislike cats, stupid fangirls fawning over the broody types. My dream is to be clan leader for the Inuzuka clan and help pass laws that protect dogs in the village," Kiba said, giving a small glare at Naruto and Sasuke. "Hey Blondie. You go next," Kakashi ordered, and the vehement look the boy gave him was enough to make Kakashi reconsider, calling him Blondie again. "My name is Uzumaki Naruto, for now anyways. I like nothing really, except learn and creating jutsus. I hate a good portion of the village and all of the Anbu. My only dream is to be a better shinobi than the Yondaime and merge the Uchiha clan and my own and bring us back to the glory we were once at," Naruto said. Kakashi stared at the boy for a second. No way. Was that boy his sensei's son? If so, how come he never knew? He had to find out. Kakashi then nodded at the Uchiha kid and waited for his response. Sasuke was sitting down Indian style, hands clasped together. "As you know, my name is Uchiha Sasuke, like Naruto I don't like much, I dislike the village council, and my dreams are to revive me and Naruto's clan and to save my brother Itachi," Sasuke said, pushing away his memories. "Alright, that's enough of the introductions. Meet me at training field 7 tomorrow at 7 o'clock sharp," Kakashi ordered them and chuckled when he saw Naruto's incredulous look. "So does that mean to show up around 10, then?" Naruto asked bluntly. "No, it means to show up at 7. Kakashi replied, crinkling his eyes up in a smile. Giving them a small wave, Kakashi disappeared out of there, followed by Naruto and Sasuke. "Akamaru, we so have to learn how to do that," Kiba grunted, petting his puppy. Akamaru barked in response. Kiba stood up and started sprinting back home, ready to beg his sister Hana for another jutsu. Sarutobi contemplated leaving a bunchin to do his job for him so he could dip out of there and get a bowl of ramen. That does sound good, Sarutobi thought. Just as he stood up out of his chair, there was a soft knock on his door. "Fuck," he groaned inwardly. "Come in," he said, hoping he didn't sound like he felt. In walked Kakashi, a book in his hands. "There's something I got to ask you, Hokage-sama," Kakashi said, standing at attention in front of the old sandaime. "At ease," Sarutobi said, knowing full well that Kakashi's politeness and bearing was just a ruse. "Ask away," the Hokage said, pulling out a pipe out of his drawer. "This might take a bit." Kakashi dropped out of attention and stared at the Hokage, head tilted to the side, spiky hair hanging down. "It's about Uzumaki Naruto," Kakashi admitted. "That boy, I know he's the jailer for the Kyuubi, but is there anything else you want to tell me about him before I take his team and his students?" Kakashi asked. "There's nothing else you need to know about him," Sarutobi said, stressing the need part. "Is he sensei's son?" Kakashi asked. "What makes you say that?" Sarutobi asked calmly, grating Kakashi's nerves. The Icha book disappeared and an accusatory finger pointed at the Yondaime's picture. "He looks just like him. He doesn't just resemble him, I thought it was him when I saw him today. Is he the Yondaime's son?" Kakashi demanded. Being an Anbu, there was always information that was withheld, but this particular piece should have been told to him years ago. "Like I said, you don't need to know," the sandaime replied evenly. "Yes I do. Don't you get it, damn it? All this time, Minato was like a father to me, especially after Itachi's death, he was there for me. Then he gets killed for this village and his son gets ostracized, beaten and his eyes taken. I could have been there for him. Those that don't follow rules are trash, but those that abandon their comrades are worse than trash. I'm trash." All this time I've been living in the past, regretting Sensei's death, Obito's death, and Rin's disappearance, and that boy had no one, not even me. I've disgraced his father by not being there. I'm a supposed genius, how come I didn't figure it out? Kakashi said, his only visible eye showing more emotion than he had shown in years. You didn't know. Sarutobi said calmly, standing up and placing his hand on Kakashi's shoulder. That's what makes me an idiot. Not to mention his last name, Uzumaki, that was Kushina's surname wasn't it? 12 years he was despised, I even despised him after Minato's death, and I didn't know. I know you're the Hokage, but fuck, that's something you should have told me. Is there anything else? Nothing, though I can see why he doesn't trust you. The boy knows, doesn't he? I remember the first time I met, how boastful he was about being Hokage, and you destroyed that dream by letting those ungrateful fucking villagers nearly kill him. You could have had another yondaime, hell the kid seems powerful enough, and instead he doesn't want anything to do with that shit job. I'll be on my way, Hokage-sama, it appears I have 12 years of making up to do. Kakashi snapped, turning around and leaving. Sarutobi sighed. Kakashi hated him too. Raymond don't sound too bad now. Neither does Peeping, it's a shame Jireya's been gone for so long. That transparency jutsu was useful. 3. Naruto walked with Sasuke back to the Uchiha district. The two had been living in its remnants since after the day Naruto accompanied Sasuke to the funeral. Once Sasuke found out where Naruto had been living and how he'd been eating, he promptly invited his only friend to stay with him. Part of him knew he was scared to live all alone in the very district his family was assassinated. Naruto being his best friend was a bonus. Normally the two would engage in a few taijutsu spars and practice their ninjutsus, but Naruto seemed pretty out of it. Hey dope. Sasuke said, raising his eyebrows at the green-eyed blonde. Naruto grimaced for a second and then looked at Sasuke. What do you want, Sasuke? Naruto said, panting slightly. You alright? Sasuke asked. Yeah. I'm just trying to filter through my memories. Wasn't our sensei that Anbu that took me to the council that day I told you everything? Naruto asked. Sasuke's curiosity piqued. He began to recall that day that changed his life in so many ways and then remembered him. That perverted sensei of his off in the background, Icha book in tow. Yay, it was him. Sasuke said. Naruto nodded numbly and then sneezed. Someone must be talking about me. How about go out to eat before we train? I'll pay. Naruto offered and Sasuke had to agree to that one. The two boys headed off to a restaurant Choji recommended them that offered the best barbecued pork ever. IV. Hiba glared at his sister in Inuzuka Hana. He had been begging her to teach him some ninjutsu, but she refused to cave in. Come on Nichin. Kiba begged, Akamaru barking, throwing his 2 cents in. I'm busy all day at the vet's office. Kuramaru got injured pretty badly in his last mission and Kasen wants him healed as soon as possible. Hana replied, ruffling Kiba's hair. Her Itato could be annoying at times, but she was thankful for his enthusiasm. What if I offered to him you at the vet's today? Would you teach me some cool jutsu, Nahana Nichin? Kiba pleaded and even Akamaru joined, holding out his paw to Hana. Unable to resist the little puppy, Hana held its paw in her hand and gently scratched behind his ear. Akamaru licked her hand in response. I guess so. She said, shrugging. So who'd you get teamed up with? She asked gently, picking up Akamaru and patting it softly, much to the dog's pleasure. I got stuck with 2 of the most stuck-up kids in class. I got Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. Kiba said, growling in annoyance. Naruto huh? That boy who looks just like the yondaime. He's definitely a cutie, if only I was 5 years younger. Hana contemplated. Sometimes I wonder though, if the yondaime had a kid, it'd be that Naruto boy. Hana said. You think Naruto's cute? Kiba growled out. Hana shrugged. Yeah. You got a problem with it? It's not like I'm going to date the boy, just merely stating a fact. Uzumaki-san is sexy in the Uchiha, well he's not my type. Come on, have you seen Naruto's whisker marks? They're so cute. Just be quiet, you're starting to sound like one of their fangirls. Let's just hurry up at the vet and we can get back to learning a jutsu. Kiba said, snatching back his puppy and placing him on his parka hood. Hana rolled her eyes in disdain. Kiba could be so rude. The two headed off to the vet's office where Hana worked part-time. It was time to cure their Kasen's dog Kuramaru. Naruto sat atop of the yondaime's head cursing him. Another villager was dumb enough to cross him, but this time Naruto let the man live. He couldn't kill every villager, even if he was sorely tempted to at times. Naruto used a shunshin and hurried over to the downtown portion of the village where he ran into Kakashi once again. Yo. Kakashi said, and Naruto ignored him. He kind of wanted to get back to the Uchiha district before dark so he could practice the Kaiten Kakaku no Jutsu a few times. He had already mastered that in the Hosenka, but it didn't do harm to practice. Naruto. Kakashi said, annoyed at the genin's indifference to him. Naruto furrowed his brows and stared at his sensei. Yes, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto waited for the pertinent lecture he figured would come next. You ready for tomorrow? Kakashi asked. Before they could continue what might have been a conversation, which sorely depended on Naruto, they were interrupted by an infamous pink-haired banshee. Naruto. She yelled, twirling a kunai on her fingers, standing in an academy taijutsu stance. What do you want, Haruno? Naruto asked angrily. He avoided Sakura whenever possible, usually she bothered him with questions on how to seduce Sasuke and whatnot and was very insistent on top. Apparently she just didn't get that her Sasuke-kun just didn't like her. Not that Naruto blamed him. Is it true that you killed my father 3 years ago? Sakura grimacing, teeth clenched, poised to strike at any second. Naruto flinched visibly. Haruno's Aku had been his only kill. He regretted it now, but at the time he had been so set on setting an example to the council that he cold-heartedly murdered him, even if he had tried to kill him first. He had just reacted to the incoming kunai and didn't think twice about shoving the thing into the back of his head. Yeah, I did. Naruto said calmly, belying the emotions that he had pent up. Why? She demanded. Why did you kill Sakura Tausen? She had her other hand in her shuriken pouch, ready to launch them at the blonde. It would be unwise to attack me, Haruno. You should learn from your father's mistakes. He spoke bluntly. Or you'll end up like him. Kakashi stared at the blonde. This was Minato's son. It had to be a joke, this kid talked about killing his classmate's father so cruelly, as if it were an everyday occurrence. My father attacked you? Sakura asked, clearly intimidated by Naruto's presence. The way he carried himself was astonishingly frightening. It's almost as if he were expecting an attack from everywhere, green eyes darting about. I can't tell you much because it's classified, but he committed treason and tried to kill me, a clan leader. Naruto replied. So it's true. Kasen was right, you're evil, there's nothing good left in you. You should have died in my father's place, but I'll rectify that. This is for my father. Sakura screeched, rushing forward launching a kunai at his head. Naruto blocked the kunai with one of his own, smacking the head of the kunai in a way that sent it spiraling back at Sakura's face. Before it could connect, Kakashi stepped in and grabbed it. The glare he sent to Naruto was packed full of killer intent and was enough to send Sakura cowering. Go home. He ordered Sakura. With a defiant look on her face she turned to Naruto. I'm going to train every day and one day I'll avenge my father's death, Uzumaki Naruto. She turned and walked away, no longer the confident nin she'd been minutes ago, as tears streamed down her face. Kakashi couldn't help himself and grabbed Naruto by the front of his jacket and lifted him up in the air. You feel strong enough to take on your sensei, Naruto? Kakashi asked and received nothing more than indifference. I was merely defending myself. Naruto stated. You didn't have to talk to her about her father like that. Kakashi said sourly. You're nothing like my sensei. Do you think your Tausen would have approved? Kakashi asked. So you found out, nah? If Namikaze Minato was in front of me, I'd tell him to burn in hell or the Shinigami's stomach for all I care. He's the one to blame for all this, to condemn me to live such a life. If you were his student, why didn't you help me? Naruto asked lividly, his eyes lighting up in anger. The Yondaime was a great man, you should not speak bad of your Tausen. Kakashi snapped at him. I have no Tausen, therefore I'll speak about him however I want. The Yondaime was a stupid fool who gave up his life for a stupid, ungrateful village. Naruto snapped back at the silver-haired jounin. What did you say? Kakashi asked, his fists clenching in anger, his dark eyes demanding the genin to repeat his statement. You heard me, sensei. He was nothing more than a fool giving up his life for a stupid village and sacrificed his only child to do it. I hope he rots wherever he's at. Before Naruto could finish, Kakashi had already punched him across the face, sending him tumbling to the dirt. A few villagers saw this and cheered from the side. Kakashi grabbed Naruto, forcing him to his feet and punched him in the stomach. You ungrateful son of a bitch. Kakashi exclaimed, tears welling up in his eyes. He gave up his life to save yours and everyone else's, and you dare disrespect him like that. Kakashi barked, looking into the jade eyes of his sensei's son. Fuck the Yondaime. How dare he put the Kyuubi in me, a fucking newborn, and then get himself killed on top of it. He couldn't have stuck around and help his child, protect him from an angry village, instead he passed on the mantle to an old geezer too old to do anything about it. He left me with no one to help me, to protect me, to feed me. You ever have to go digging through people's garbage for breakfast, sensei? You called me ungrateful, what is there to be grateful of? He left me alone, to live life as a loser, a blind one damn near thanks to this village. Naruto pushed Kakashi off him. If I had known, Kakashi began. It's of little consequence now, Kakashi-san. Maybe you were the Yondame's disciple, but don't ever expect me to change my opinion because you think he was great, you don't have to walk around with a demon stuck in your gut," Naruto said. He was about to walk away when Kakashi placed a hand on his shoulder. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I promise I'll do my best to make up these last 12 years to you. The Yondame was like a father to me, so you can think of me as your Aniki," Kakashi said lazily, trying to patch up the relationship with Naruto. "Whatever," Naruto stated, walking away. "I'll see you tomorrow, sensei. Bye." Naruto awoke at 6 in the morning and hurried off to the bathroom to brush his teeth and shower. He jumped into the shower and hopped out a few minutes later, fully washed. He dressed in his normal attire, black ninja pants rolled up to mid-shin, with yellow bandages wrapping around the end of his pants down to his ankle. He put on his black sandals on and then a sleeveless black spandex shirt, fitting his lithe form perfectly. His stomach growled and he wanted a bit of breakfast before heading out. He quickly tied the yellow sash around his waist and put on his hit I-8, tying it into a knot. He hurried up and tied a kunai holster around his leg and hurried down to the kitchen. Sasuke was already there, softly chewing on an apple. He tossed one over to Naruto, who caught it and began eating it. Naruto reached into the fridge and pulled out this new drink he bought at the grocery store. It was called Monster and was supposed to be an energy drink. Naruto shrugged, cracked the top open and began drinking it. It tasted vulgar. "Sasuke, you bastard. Why did you buy goat's piss for?" Naruto demanded, tossing him the can. Though Naruto did realize he was fully awake now, he also knew that he never wanted another monster again. The two of them rushed out of the door and sunshined, making it to the training grounds at 6:30. Kiba got there shortly after and engaged the two of them in conversation. Much to Kiba's surprise, they actually talked to them. For the most stuck-up guys in his class, they seemed down to earth. They sat around talking for a bit. Kakashi didn't show up for another 3 hours. "You're late," Kiba yelled out. Akamaru barked a few times. "Sorry about that, guys. Some old guy was getting mugged by some troublesome thugs and I intervened and stopped them," Kakashi explained. Naruto raised his right eyebrow in disbelief. "I would give you guys the standard bell test, but I'm going to break tradition. I'm supposed to scare you and make you think I'm going to fail you, but I'm not. I was ordered to pass you guys and well I was going to do it anyway," Kakashi stated lazily. "Why?" Naruto asked. "Don't ask. We passed, that's all I need to know, ain't that right, Akamaru?" Kiba asked, rubbing his dog's stomach. "I'd be a fool if I wasn't. I have an Inuzuka, an Uchiha, and you Naruto. But I will be testing you guys. Hokage-sama wants to turn you guys into a heavy assault squad, so we'll see how great you are. What I'm about to make next are Iwabunshin, they're pretty hard to destroy, so have fun." 3 Iwabunshin popped out and Kakashi disappeared, leaving his clones to handle the 3. Sasuke and Naruto smiled. They hadn't had a good fight in ages. Kiba and Akamaru already used their ninja art. Beast mimicry, and the two Kibas were charging at Kakashi, ready to unleash the Gatsuga. Lesson 1. Taijutsu, Kakashi said, and the clones engaged the genin. Naruto sprinted at his, hooking a kunai around his hand and throwing it at the Bunshin. The Bunshin blocked and almost didn't avoid the punch Naruto sent his way. It ducked under his blow and punched him in the back. Naruto flew face first into the dirt and got up angrily. Charging again at the Bunshin, he hurled a set of shuriken at it and as it blocked it, he kicked his leg out, aiming for his head, but the Kakashi Bunshin simply grabbed his right leg, holding him there. Shit, Naruto thought. He swung his left fist to get the Bunshin to let go, but failed. He swung again and jumped on his free leg, kicking the Bunshin in the face, knocking him back a few feet. Landing on his feet, he crouched and sprinted once more, landing another punch to the Iwa Bunshin's face. Earth style. Inner decapitation jutsu. Kakashi yelled, hands shooting up from under the earth and grabbing Naruto's ankles, pulling him down. There was a poof of smoke only to reveal to Kakashi that it had been a shadow clone. Over to the right, Sasuke and Kakashi were parrying each other's blows. Sasuke ran through a set of hand seals which Kakashi recognized. He's much too young to know this jutsu. Fire style. Grand fireball jutsu. Sasuke yelled, arching back and then blowing a huge fireball, speeding towards the Jounin. Kakashi ran through his own set of seals. Water style. Water dragon jutsu. Since there wasn't any source of water immediately around them, the jutsu wasn't as strong, but it was enough to put out the fireball. Kiba and Akamaru were sniffing around, trying to reveal Kakashi's position. Kakashi grinned as he traveled underground, appearing behind them. He wasn't sure who was who, but this would suck for either one. Hidden leaf style. 1,000 years of pain. Kakashi yelled, bringing his hands up towards an unlucky person's rear, shoving his bony fingers into someone's butt, launching them in the air. A poof of smoke revealed it to be Akamaru who received the attack. Akamaru didn't move after that, instead chose to lay on the ground dramatically, damning the silver-haired Jounin and promising to bite him later. "Did you just shove your fingers into Akamaru's butt?" Kiba asked Kakashi angrily, who decided it was the best place to let out a stream of giggles. "That's Suuga," Kiba yelled, launching himself at Kakashi, spinning fast enough to look like a small tycoon was headed towards Kakashi. Kakashi looked at the ground where Naruto used to be. "A shadow clone when I never saw him go through the seal," Kakashi murmured, wondering how bad he had underestimated his sensei's son. Before he could continue thinking, someone's fingers were rudely shoved into his butt, launching his horrified body up a few feet. "How?" Kakashi asked. "Since you were late, I sent shadow clones to hang around the area, and when you used that Doton jutsu, I Kawarami'd with one of them and then used the inner decapitation jutsu to creep up on you. I saw what you did to Akamaru and thought it'd be fun to get you back," Naruto explained. "Sasuke and Kiba, I want you to sit down for this one," Kakashi ordered, and the two complied, Kiba hurrying over to Akamaru's prone body. "He traumatized him," Kiba said grimacing. "This one's personal. Let's see how good you really are at Tauto," Kakashi said, pulling up his hit I-8 and revealing his own Sharingan. "I thought you'd never show it, Nison," Naruto said, mocking the Jounin. Sending a flare of chakra to his own eyes, he activated his own Sharingan as well. The two charged, kunai in hand, ready to kill each other. "Naruto. Kakashi." The two screamed out each other's names in anger, and kunais clashed. The real battle had begun. On Hagakure. Training Field 7. Kunais clashed, leaving a resonating ping as metal grinded against metal. Eyebrows furrowed, Naruto tried to back up Kakashi with brute strength. The act in itself was enough to make Kakashi giggle and crinkle his eyes into another one of his annoying eye smiles. Naruto backflipped, shooting his foot out to kick the hand holding the kunai, knocking Kakashi's kunai in the air, but leaving himself vulnerable as Kakashi punched him in his back, sending Naruto stumbling into the grass. "That wasn't too bad," Atauto Kakashi said mockingly. Naruto growled at him, reaching into his holster and launching another shuriken at the masked nin. The shuriken whizzed in the air and nearly grazed Kakashi's neck. Naruto sprinted forward again, knowing he didn't have a chance against the Jounin. He was a genin after all, despite the small advantages he might have if he used in his Sharingan, or even the knowledge he gained from Itachi, he was taken on Kakashi. Naruto's Aku had been easy enough, he had been a retired Jounin, rusty, and blinded by anger, but Kakashi was a well-known nin, to the extent of being listed as an A-rank nin in Iwagakure's bingo book. Not to mention a student of his father. The jutsu wouldn't be an option, even if he could catch him off guard, Kakashi was way too fast, taunting him by not even using his Sharingan. Neither would Naruto. Kakashi launched himself at Naruto, kunai in hand. The boy's eyes widened in fear, though not much, and deftly ducked each swing of the kunai that Kakashi threw at him. Ducking through a kunai aimed at his face, Naruto formed a plan. It was a ridiculous one that he was sure wouldn't work, but perhaps it would be enough to stall for time. Kakashi swing again and Naruto ducked, but Kakashi used his momentum to send his left foot shooting into Naruto's chest, sending him crashing into a tree. Naruto quickly sprung up to his feet and pulled a scroll out of his pocket, biting his thumb and swiping the bloody digit against the parchment, streaking the blood across the whole way. There was a poof of smoke, and Naruto was holding two windmill shuriken. "Cage shuriken no jutsu," Naruto whispered, launching the two of them. Kakashi's eyes widened and pulled out two kunai and launched them as well. The kunais hit both shurikens and sent them spinning into a different direction. Kakashi gasped as a third shuriken popped out from underneath the second one and was heading for his midsection, ready to pin him to the tree. He used a cage shuriken, that sneaky Kakashi on instinct jumped in the air to dodge and avoided the shuriken, only to get pulled back against a tree. Kakashi frowned in confusion. What the fuck? Kakashi thought, wondering what exactly was holding him to the tree. On the other end, Naruto stood confidently holding the end of a lengthy bit of trap wire. Quickly running through a set of hand seals, he yelled out, "Kaiten. Ryuka no jutsu." Breathing a stream of fire that ran through the wire and headed towards Kakashi at fast speeds. Without thinking, Kakashi quickly substituted himself with a log, disappearing from sight to assess the genin. Naruto in anger sent a flare of chakra to his eyes and activated the Sharingan. If Kakashi didn't want to use his, then it would be his own fault. Two tomos spinning, Naruto looked at the area that Kakashi had been tied up at. If Kakashi wanted to hide, then fuck it, he would too. Disappearing from sight using the Shunshin, he assessed the situation. What to do? Naruto thought. Suddenly a smile lit his face. Why the hell didn't I think of that? Putting his hand in the form of one seal, Naruto yelled out, "Teju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." Suddenly the area was littered with fully functioning Narutos. 200 to be exact. Find him. Naruto ordered, sending all his clothes to search the area. Kakashi winced at the sight of all the Narutos. He inwardly groaned, Kuzo, I was just about to read, he thought as he placed his favorite book back in his pocket. Do. Tenten watched her teammate spar from the distance. She had her brow raised in annoyance, and rather than bitch, she walked over to her sensei. Kurenai-sensei, how about you teach me another jutsu? She asked, avoiding a shuriken Lee had blocked, sending it flying in her direction accidentally. You want me to teach you another jutsu? Kurenai asked. Yeah, I learned the Cage Shuriken and Cage Shuriken Bunshin, but all my jutsus are based on weapons. If I run into an elemental user or something, I might not come back alive. I need to vary my jutsus a bit to protect Lee and Niji. Both are limited to their taijutsu, Lee because he can't use anything else and Niji because it's frowned upon for the Hyugas to learn anything but the Jyuken. Tenten pointed out. Kurenai pondered about it for a second. You're right, you know. I should do the same myself, I do rely on Jinjutsu too much. Sensei and student headed off to another sector of the training field to train some more. Lee Dr. Kunai Niji sent his way and charged at him, charging up chakra in his fist. Niji seen the attack and smiled smugly. You're in within my field of divination. Niji said, ducking the blow and striking Lee across the thigh, causing him to stumble, but not before receiving a blow to the shoulder. Though Niji could have injured him worse doing the Jyuken and closing the Tenketsus, he refrained from it and settled for brute force. Lee flew backwards, chakra pouring into his feet to stop, feet digging into the dirt as he finally stopped. He stared at his eternal rival in anger. It seemed that no matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't beat the Hyuga prodigy. Since the academy, he was always called dead last and a loser because he couldn't use ninjutsu or jinjutsu and he didn't have the greatest taijutsu. After passing a special academy test, he spent all his time trying to prove that he could be a capable ninja using only taijutsu. Hours he spent training until his body was spent and couldn't continue, yet it seemed that God favored prodigy over a hard worker. It seemed that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't beat Hyuga Niji. His sensei couldn't really help him, she was mainly a jinjutsu user and pretty weak in taijutsu. It didn't stop him from trying though. He would prove to the world that he, Rock Lee, would be a capable ninja and the greatest taijutsu user in all of the 5 great nations. There would be no one better than Rock Lee. Not even Hyuga Niji. Lee charged again and jumped at Niji, changing directions in midair and aiming a spinning wheel kick at Niji, who blocked it with his forearm and attempted to shove Lee back. Lee spun in midair and used the momentum to slam his other foot in Niji's face. Niji's concentration scattered for a second as the kick jarred him, his hands flailing for a second. A second too late. Lee landed and swung his arm up and uppercutted him. Lee jumped forward into a handstand and began kicking Niji in the face, hard, each kick bruising and busting him up, Lee moving forward using his hands as legs. And if I cannot use ninjutsu, then I will use kinjutsu like Tenten, Lee swore in his mind. Before he could mount any offense, Niji landed a blow to his back. I didn't want to use this, but perhaps fate chose this time to reveal my new technique. Niji spoke and suddenly began to spin in a circle, chakra exploding from all 361 tenketsus to form a spinning chakra barrier in the shape of a dome. Kaiten. Niji yelled and the attack was enough to send Lee into a tree, unconscious. Over to the left a couple of yards, Tenten was working on the new jutsu Kurenai was teaching. It was draining her chakra in mass amounts with each attempt. Despite the fact that she considered herself a decent kunoichi, especially for a genin, her chakra reserves were not enough to repeated use the jutsu. Perhaps by the Chunin exams, she'd be better off. She still had 4 months. 3. Nara Shikamaru was lazy. Everyone knew that. Except Mido Guy. Come on, Shikamaru. Train until you're full of the springtime of youth. Guy complained, hovering over Shikamaru like a hawk. Shikamaru was on the floor, picking himself up for another set of push-ups, one-handed at that, and he was royally pissed off. Kuzo. The springtime of youth seems too troublesome if you ask me. Nara drawled lazily, doing another set of 25. I'm not asking. Now let the youth explode, perhaps if you wore my youthful training suit, you'd get even stronger. Guy said, almost as an afterthought. I'm not wearing that green horrid suit. That is way too troublesome, what a drag. Shikamaru complained, standing up and dusting himself off. I then walked over to Ino who was screaming, complaining about the dirt in her hair. Are we almost done, sensei? I need to wash up so I can see Naruto-kun. Ino asked, pushing out another 20 sit-ups. This Naruto, is he brimming with? Could you shut up about youthfulness, Guy-sensei? Ino cried out, standing up and trying to brush the dirt out of her hair. That was very unyouthful, Ino-san. Guy said, landing to his knees, crying out an ungodly amount of tears, using some sort of jinjutsu for a drab background. Taoji apparently had enough of his training and was lying against a tree, hand reaching into his bag of potato chips. Eyes flaming with youth, Guy rushed over and kicked the bag out of his hands, sending it flying up into the sky in I'm style. Taoji stood up and faced Guy-sensei, his eyes brimming with fire. "Did you just kick my tasty snack into the air, sensei?" he asked. "It is unyouthful for you to eat so much, perhaps if you train, then you wouldn't be so." Before Guy could finish his sentence, Ino covered his mouth. Unlike Guy, she knew how angry Chaoji got when people commented on his weight. "What were you about to say?" Chaoji demanded, leaking a small bit of killer intent. "Nothing, Chaoji. Sensei was just being troublesome again." Shikamaru spoke, ready to sneak out of training and sit in his favorite spot and go cloud gazing again. "Can I go see Naruto now?" Ino demanded shrilly, making Shikamaru wince. "Go see him, but keep it youthful, Ino-san." Guy exclaimed and turned his head back to Chaoji and Shikamaru. "You guys have fun, but tomorrow, get ready to burn with the power of youth." Guy demanded. "Yash," Shikamaru said dramatically. "The fire is burning in you more and more with each day, Shikamaru-kun. Shut it already. I'm gonna kill him." Sakura shouted, slamming a chakra-enhanced fist into the tree bark, leaving a distinctive crunch as the wood splintered, bits flying around. Salty tears ran down the girl's face. "He killed my father. That son of a bitch." Jumping in the air, she landed a vicious kick to the tree, bruising her shins in the process. Limping a bit, she stood up and began again. She'd been trying to create a new technique on of her own, but she didn't have the chakra for it yet. She had been practicing tree climbing and water walking, avoiding her team as much as possible. She pretty much isolated herself from everyone. Her sensei Mitarashi Anko didn't think it was time to start taking D-ranked missions. They just passed the bell test today and were gonna start taking missions in 2 days. "Sakura. Speak of the devil." Sakura found her training session interrupted by Anko. "Yes, sensei." Sakura said politely, landing another vicious kick to the tree. "Are you okay?" Anko asked, her face full of concern. "Yeah. I'm just training, making sure I'm not some weak Kunoichi. I kind of want to be strong, like you are, sensei." Sakura stated. "Why do you train so hard?" Anko asked. "Because I'm going to avenge my father's death. I will kill the guy who killed my father. I'm at a huge disadvantage, not only does he use the Sharingan, but his chakra pools are enormous, according to Iruka-sensei, so in order to beat him, I need to be stronger." Sakura growled out. "I understand, more than you think. But hate only begets hate, and that my student leads to a path of evil." Anko explained, her trench coat billowing in the wind, exposing her fishnet top. "Perhaps it's worth it." "It's not. Believe me. I take it you want to kill Uzumaki Naruto?" Anko pointed out. "Yes, sensei." Sakura said, stopping her training and turning around to face her teacher. "I want to kill him." "Have you ever tried walking in his shoes?" Anko asked. Sakura shook her head. "As far as I've known the boy, he's been beaten and hated. He's been refused service, unable to eat, unable to buy decent clothes or even shinobi tools. And on his 9th birthday, he was nearly killed by villagers and Samanbu, taking from him his eyesight. If your father attacked him, perhaps Naruto was fed up and killed him in self-defense." Anko stated. Sakura lowered her glare. "I don't care. He killed my father and I'll never forgive him for it." "I'm not asking you to forgive him. But the attempt of physical harm on a Konohagakure shinobi and clan leader out of self-defense is punishable by death. Training to avenge your father will make you stronger, but not strong enough. Train to protect your loved ones and perhaps you'll be stronger than you'll ever know." Sakura stared at her sensei for a second and let her words sink in. Was killing Naruto worth dying herself? It wasn't. But she'd wait for him to slip up and then she'd attack. Naruto's brain processed the information his shadow clones gave him and he set off, knowing exactly where Kakashi's position was. Charging in, he shot up a set of kunais into the trees, forcing Kakashi to move out of the way. Once Kakashi dodged the kunai, Naruto ran up the tree and aimed a kick to his face which Kakashi blocked, knocking him back in the air. Kakashi launched his own set of kunai, which Naruto blocked expertly. Both shinobi landed on the ground and charged once more before landing into some taijutsu. Kakashi kneed Naruto in the gut and went to elbow him in the back, but a poof of smoke caught him in the face. Just as he turned around, Naruto landed a punch to his stomach and kicked him up into the air, jumping up after him. Kakashi ran through a set of hand seals, ready to blast Naruto back down, but Naruto kawaramied with a clone above him and landed a kick to Kakashi's back, sending the two of them crashing back down. The poof of smoke revealed that Kakashi had just been another cage bunshin. Fuck was the only thought Naruto afforded as he was rocked sideways with the Jounin's fist. Naruto flew backwards and crashed hard into the dirt. Sasuke and Kiba looked bored from the sidelines. "They need to end this bar soon," Kiba complained. Akamaru barked in agreement. Naruto stood up in anger and formed a single seal. "Taijuu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." He yelled out and another 100 Narutos popped into existence. The clones charged in and swarmed Kakashi, who quickly decimated them. The real Naruto stood away from the massacre, a calculating look on his face. Kakashi stared and saw that he had two kunai in his hand, one a standard kunai and the other frightened Kakashi. He can't know the Horiishin, he's only 12. Kakashi muttered under his breath. In Naruto's hand was a three-pronged kunai with a seal wrapped around it. Naruto grinned and launched the standard kunai at Kakashi, who merely sidestepped it. Kakashi's whole focus was on the kunai. Naruto launched it at Kakashi, who reacted and launched his own kunai to block it and sent it away. Naruto's smirk never left his face. Suddenly another Naruto appeared behind Kakashi and held a kunai to his neck. "I win," Naruto said, a gleeful look on his face. "Not really," Kakashi said, poofing out of existence. "Kuzo?" Naruto shouted. Kakashi appeared next to him and reached into his pouch to pull out his Icha book. "Spars over Naruto. Though I do have to commend your ingenious attack. You sent a bunch of clones to jump me and distract me, while two stuck behind and hinged into the kunais. You don't know the Horiishin, but you made me think you did and launched a normal kunai at me. I had been so focused on the other one that I didn't see the clone sneaking up on me until it was too late." "How did you figure it out?" Naruto asked. "I am a jounin, baka. Well, I was your father's student, so I saw the actual seals that go on the kunai, and when I saw yours right before you launched it and saw it was just a bunch of scribble on it." "Whatever." Naruto pouted and began heading back to his teammates. Kakashi walked up to the three of them, holding 3 pieces of paper. "These pieces of papers are made out of a chakra tree and will tell us what elemental affinity you have," Kakashi explained, passing the 3 of them out. "What do you mean by elemental affinity?" Kiba asked. "What element you are most in tune with. For example, if you're a lightning type, Raiden jutsus are much easier to perform than others," Kakashi explained and Kiba nodded. "I normally wouldn't do this, I'd start you off with tree climbing and water walking, but there's some bad things brewing and I need you to be prepared. You are the Genin Heavy Assault Squadron and we'll be taking a lot of C-ranked and possibly B-ranked missions in the future when you become Chunin, and you have to be fully prepared for what could be happening." "What could be happening, sensei?" Naruto asked. "Or. It's not pretty either. I fought along the Yondaime against a Wagakure and I was just turned 12. By 13 I was a jounin and I need to make full-fledged ninja out of you." "Why makes you think a war will break out?" Sasuke asked. "I took a few S-ranked missions and something is going on. There was Sun Agakure making a peace treaty with a new village called Itagakure and no one knows who their Kage is. Amegakure is still in civil war and Kumo and Iwa are in the middle of a peace treaty and those two nations are our biggest enemies," Kakashi explained. "So how do we find out what our affinities are?" Naruto asked. "You basically pump chakra into the paper and the paper will react. If it's earth it'll dissolve into dust. If it's fire, it'll smoke and burn. If it's water the paper will damper, if it's wind it'll slice in half. And if it's lightning, it'll emit sparks." Kiba began pumping chakra into his paper and it sliced in half. "So that means I'm a wind user, right?" Kakashi nodded and signaled for Sasuke to go. Sasuke began channeling his chakra into the paper. Suddenly the paper began to smolder and smoke, burning into ash. "Higher type, should have figured, you're an Uchiha after all," Kakashi said, his face expressionless. Naruto then began pouring his chakra into the paper and it suddenly began emitting sparks, causing him to drop it. "Lightning, he never would have figured," Kakashi stated, crinkling his eyes into his stupid eye smile. "So now that we know our elemental affinities, what next?" Kiba asked, rubbing Akamaru's head affectionately. "I'm going to teach you jutsus for them. I'm a lightning type, but since I have the Sharingan I've copied over 1,000 jutsus that will help you out. I'll teach you a C-ranked, a B-ranked, and then an A-ranked assassination jutsu," Kakashi explained. "Assassination jutsu?" Naruto asked. "Yeah, we are in the business of killing. What part of Heavy Assault Squadron don't you get, Ataudo?" Kakashi asked, ruffling Naruto's hair, who began leaking killer intent. "I know. I just didn't understand what you meant at first," Naruto explained, slapping Kakashi's hand away. "Well yeah, as ninjas we have to employ all forms of jutsus to attack an enemy. Well, it'd be better to sneak up on people and slit their throats with a kunai. Sometimes you end up in a battle with them, where you have to resort to your repertoire of techniques to walk out alive. Most E-ranked to C-ranked jutsus hurt an opponent, but B and A-ranked are usually for assassinations. I will teach you a C-ranked attack jutsu, a B-ranked defensive one and an A-ranked assassination jutsu. The A ranks I teach you aren't meant to be flashing around, use them only when you're going to kill someone or to protect a precious person," Kakashi explained. "So the A ranks are like a last resort and assassination technique?" Kiba asked. "Yes. Mainly because there's gonna be a Sharingan user or someone who can break your technique down and duplicate it and then use it against you." Naruto and Sasuke snickered at the jab at the Sharingan users. "Na, Kaka-sensei, you almost sound like a hypocrite, owner of 1,000 techniques." Naruto spoke, causing Kiba to snicker. Raising a wary eyebrow at the boy, Kakashi chose to ignore him. "Eventually I want you guests to learn elemental manipulation and create your own techniques." Kakashi continued. "Creating your own techniques can be helpful, especially if you use them cautiously, it gives you a small advantage over an enemy." "What about techniques that haven't seen in a while? If someone were to recreate them, that'd be an advantage, wouldn't it?" Naruto asked. Kakashi's eye narrowed at him. "Give us an example, Naruto." "The Hurrieshin no Jutsu, a technique exclusive to the Yondaime Hokage," Naruto pointed out. "You aren't really going to try to recreate that technique, are you?" Kakashi asked. "Yes, I am," Naruto stated. "But the scrolls on how the Yondaime made the technique were lost," Kakashi exclaimed. Naruto shrugged carelessly. "What's the Hurrieshin?" Kiba asked. "It's a jutsu exclusive to the Yondaime. It allowed him to instantly teleport to a location with a seal that almost summoned him to that spot," Kakashi explained. Kiba looked over at Naruto, clearly impressed. "So what techniques are you going to teach us?" Sasuke asked, finally speaking up. "Well, for Kiba I'm going to teach him Futen. Great Wind Release and Futen. Wind Bullet. Great Wind Release simply causes the user to channel large amounts of wind around their body, forcing away anything that gets too close, and Wind Bullet is a jutsu that blows a concentrated ball of chakra that is fired from the mouth and hits an opponent from a distance. I don't know any air rank techniques, so you have to ask Saratobi Asuma. For you Sasuke I'm going to teach you Katen. Flamethrower, Katen. Wall of Fire and Katen. Phoenix Dragon Jutsu." Sasuke smirked, thinking of the possibilities. Flamethrower basically blows a continuously amount of fire at an opponent, Wall of Fire erupts a large barrier of fire for protection, and Phoenix Dragon is your assassination technique. For you Naruto, I'm going to teach you Raiden. Shockwave, Raiden. Spark, and lastly my own original technique, the Chidori. Shockwave basically launches a currently of lightning on the ground and doesn't stop until it connects with a conductor. Spark is a defensive jutsu that allows you to emit lightning chakra around you to stop any up-close attacks. Chidori is my own original attack, it's an air-rank assassination technique that has a few drawbacks. Kakashi explained. "What drawbacks, sensei?" Naruto asked. "You can overcome them with the Sharingan, well most of them. The biggest one is that as you charge at the opponent it emits a shrill noise, like 1,000 birds chirping, hence the name. To use the technique, you have to have a ridiculous amount of speed and agility, and without the Sharingan the technique is virtuously useless." Kakashi said, and seeing Naruto's confusion, he continued. "At the speed you're moving when you use this causes almost a tunnel-like vision that doesn't allow you to see counterattacks. But with the Sharingan, that point is nullified." Naruto finished. "Yes." Kakashi said, nodding. "In 2 days we'll be starting D-ranked missions and I'll train you afterwards, teaching each of you how to use your techniques. We'll start with the C-ranked, then B-ranked, and finally the A-ranked assassination ones. But you'll have to wait a bit for those, until I deem you ready," Kakashi said, much to Team 7's displeasure. "Damn, I was hoping to learn Chidori today." Naruto pouted uncharacteristically, showing more emotion than he had in a while. Kakashi grinned, ruffling the boy's hair again. "You aren't going to play favorites are you, Kakabaka?" Naruto asked. Kakashi crinkled his eyes again in response. "Never Naruto. Anyways, Team 7 meet me here tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning," Kakashi ordered, and Naruto glared at him. "I'm showing up at 10 then," Sasuke said, earning him a soft slap to the back of the head from Kakashi. Kiba waved to his sensei and headed back to the Inuzuka district, he would train with Akamaru for a bit. Seconds Kakashi disappeared using the Shunshin. Naruto turned to Sasuke with an evil grin. "So what's next Ichiha?" Naruto asked. "Shut it up. How about we get something to eat?" Sasuke asked. "Ramen?" Naruto asked, giving Sasuke the puppy eyes no jutsu. "And I hope you get fat, that'll be a new one for the ages, a Hokage the size of an Akamichi. You'll become the scapegoat in a sense, Iruka-sensei will be like, watch out kiddies, the Hokage has an ultimate finisher, he farts in people's faces, one-hit knockout." Sasuke imitated Iruka's voice. Naruto couldn't help but laugh. "And you'd be the poster boy for emos. Let's all be great like Uchiha Sasuke, all we have to do is brood and cry in dark corners and say two-worded sentences. Slit your wrists for 100 points, 1,000 if you're as gay as him. He's the Yaoikage, leader of Yaoigakure." Sasuke arched an eyebrow at him. "Did you just go there?" he asked, pushing his best friend. "Yeah I did, Sasuke. It's not like I see you out there saying more than HN to any of your fangirls." Naruto replied. "Oh yeah and what about you huh?" Sasuke asked. "Hey I took Hinata and Ino on a date. The fucking Ichiraku's man. What are you going to be in a couple of years, a Hokage?" Nah, more like the 40-year-old virgin. Seriously, if I actually took one of those silly girls out on a date, it wouldn't be Ichiraku, dope. Sasuke said, smirking. Of course you wouldn't. You'd take them to your basement and show them your box of shounen porno that you think I don't know about. Perhaps you'll start a book, Ichiha's Sasuke's Yaoi Yaoi Paradise. Naruto snapped back. I'm not gay, Sasuke whined. HN. Did you say something? Naruto asked coolly. Bad timing, Sasuke's eyes filled up with fire as he stared at his adopted brother. So whatever did happen on the date with Hinata? Sasuke asked as they headed toward Shashua, a pretty good restaurant in Konoha. They served a variety of things, and the good thing was that it was healthy and tasty. It was weird. She didn't talk much and stared at me throughout the whole day with those creepy eyes of hers. I told her that she needed to get better self-confidence, that I hated weak Kunoichi and all, and her eyes watered up and stuff. I just gave a little bit of advice, and she started crying and stuff. Troublesome girl. You're an idiot. Hinata worships the ground you walk on, Uzumaki, and you tell her that. Not to mention her dad's a team who tells her she's weak and doesn't train her properly. You just added to her low self-esteem, good going Baka. Sasuke pointed out. What about Ino? Naruto blushed for a second. Sasuke stared at him, now completely curious. Ino's cool, I guess. Definitely fangirl material, but she is hot as hell. I'm only 12 and I know that much. We went to Ichiraku's and stuff, hung out for a bit and talked, and before we left, she kissed me. It was weird. Weird? Sasuke asked, entering Shashua and asking for a table for two. Well, the kiss was all wet. It was like she was trying to suck my face off. Naruto exclaimed and Sasuke laughed. Sasuke shook his head. So what about you and Sakura? Naruto asked. There's no me and Sakura. She never stops asking me out and she cries when I tell her no. I told her to focus on training rather than me, and it's like I can't pass that big-ass forehead of hers. Sasuke said, clearly frustrated. The two sat down and ordered some food. Yakisoba for Naruto with some shrimp fried rice and some red bean soup for Sasuke. Naruto. Sasuke. Ino and Sakura walked into Shashua, rushing over to their table. After shooting a glare at Naruto, Sakura sat down next to Sasuke and Ino wrapped her arms around Naruto, sliding in next to him. You aren't planning on poisoning my food, are you, Haruno-san? Naruto asked, eyeing her carefully. No, I still hate you though. Sakura whispered, turning to Sasuke. Did you miss me, Sasuke-kun? HN. Sasuke grunted in response. Ino curled up next to Naruto, and Naruto inhaled a mixture of vanilla and lavender. Naruto stared at Sakura. Sakura-san, I'm honestly sorry for you. I didn't know it was your father and he was trying to kill me, and I just reacted. I'm not sorry for him, but I'm sorry for what it's doing to you. I'm not going to ask for forgiveness, nor for you to forget, but had it been a reversal of roles, you'd done the same. Naruto pointed out. Sakura stared at him for a few seconds. I'd rather not talk about it. I missed you, Naruto-kun. Ino said, looking up at Naruto's face hopefully. He honestly didn't have the balls to be it to her. Here she was curled up against him, smelling really good and asking for crumbs. Why be it to her? He couldn't deny that he liked her, even if it was just little bit. Naruto leaned his head down and captured Ino's lips with his own. Her soft lips were compliant and she darted her tongue into his mouth, soft hands gripping on his arm. This time, the kiss was not all sloppy, just full of passion on both parts. Even if he didn't like her that much, he couldn't deny the fact that as he kissed her, he had this soft tickling club in his gut. He could deal with it for a bit. Thanks to some help from Sasuke and Ino, Naruto had managed to get past the Chunin's on guard and into the Hokage's office. There was a reason the blonde genin was in here, a big one in fact. A vague memory had popped up during his training with Kakashi, almost urging him to knock the old man Hokage out and nick the forbidden scroll. He had already mastered the C-ranked Raiten, Dejeki Nami and the B-ranked Raiten, Raikou Habana no Jutsu. He still had a bit of trouble getting the basics of the Chidori, much to Kakashi's surprise, but not him. With the other jutsus, he pretty much guessed a bit on how much chakra to put into them, but with the Chidori, that was virtually next to impossible. Too little chakra and the lightning would sizzle and then disappear, too much chakra and the attack blew up in his face. So the last couple of weeks he had been working on chakra control by walking up trees and walking on water. Weeks of chakra control in the hopes that it'd be enough to be fully able to harness the lightning chakra and use the Chidori. Spatial recomposition was no real trouble for him, but the nature manipulation was a whole other story. Refining his chakra into lightning took so much control and focus that it seemed out of his grasp. So to make up for it, he planned on stealing some techniques off the forbidden scroll, hoping there was something from his father left behind for him. Damn it, he was the Yondame's son, Minato must have left some sort of contingency plan for him in case something like this were to happen. Didn't he want his son to be stronger than he ever was? He needed that power. Konoha would never respect nor accept him without it. And for their acceptance, he'd sell his soul if he had to. Hokage Jujutsu. Naruto shouted out to him, reminding the Sandaime of the old Naruto. The one that had existed before he'd been tainted by Uchiha Itachi. Whether it was intentional or not, Itachi had corrupted the boy by giving him the eyes of Shisui. God knows what the Sandaime would give up just to have the old Naruto back. A smiling Baka running around with big boasts of becoming Hokage in that ridiculous jumpsuit of his. But perhaps his corruption wasn't Itachi's fault. It had been the villagers and shinobi even who had robbed the boy of his sight, treated him like a leper and like a burden, despite the fact that he was the one person who held back the Kyuubi, stopping them from dying. Staring at the boy cautiously, the old man puffed on his pipe, inhaling the sweet scent of the tobacco before blowing it out, watching as it curled around his form. Yes, Naruto-kun. The aged Hokage said gently, hoping not to do something that would set the boy off. Did the Yondaime ever leave me anything? Any scrolls, any money, or something that make my existence a little more bearable? Surely he must have foreseen the villagers' treatment of me. Naruto replied, his curious jade eyes closing for a second, making him look almost angelic, instead of a 12-year-old boy who already took the life of a retired leaf nin. The Sandaime motioned for the boy to get closer, stretching out his arm and placing his hand on the genin's head. Naruto's eyes shot wide open at the open display of affection and gave the Hokage an aged look, one that didn't suit him whatsoever. Ruffling the boy's blonde locks gently, the withered old man clasped his hands around the boy, stifling him in a hug. Forgive me Naruto, forgive me for everything. Bitter tears sprang to the Hokage's eyes, he knew he had failed Naruto, much like he had Jiraiya. Allowing the momentary lapse of weakness, the Sandaime placed a kiss on Naruto's forehead. Forgive me. He begged in a tone that didn't become him. Naruto paused, closing his eyes again in a hurry, he needed to close off the tears that threatened to spill, and allowed himself to be held. It'd be so long since he had been shown any affection to, the Sandaime Hokage had always resembled some sort of family to him, and as he let the withered old man hug him, Naruto couldn't help but feel regret, and deep down he knew he forgave him. His heart threatened to burst out of his chest as it began thumping quickly in his chest. I forgive you old man. Naruto whispered. The Sandaime released the genin and stared into his sparkling jade eyes, unique in their own sense, eyes that belonged to a dead man. He did. But he left specific instructions for you not to see until you were a Jounin or 18. The Sandaime winced, hoping the boy didn't take it too hard. Naruto paused for a second, blank eyes like a wax statue. Hi, Hokage-sama. If those are my Itausen's wishes, then so be it. Naruto responded. The look of haughty defiance crossed his face before it was wiped clean. If you want though I can teach you a few jutsus when I get off, you can copy them with your Sharingan. The Sandaime offered his penance. No. The best jutsus are mastered, never copied. I will wait with you until you get off and then you can show me, but I'm not copying them, you have me confused with Kakashi. Naruto replied smirking. To say the Sandaime was surprised was an understatement. Hi, don't be too hard on your sensei, the copying abilities of the Sharingan are subconscious and subliminal. He is trying to make up for the last 12 years. He honestly didn't know. The Sandaime said, ruffling Naruto's hair again. Naruto nodded and took a seat next to the Sandaime, and an hour later, the two left to train. 2. Naruto was tired, bone dead tired to be exact. All he wanted was to get a few bowls of some hot miso ramen and then jump into his bed and ready for the next amount of pointless chores called D-ranked missions. It's been nearly 2 months of doing them and Team 7 already had a stellar record of 46 missions passed and none failed. Hopefully they got a juicy C or B ranked mission soon, Naruto was itching for a fight. Just not right now. The blonde black-clad boy began walking to his favorite restaurant, Ichiraku's Ramen. Surprisingly enough, after giving the owner Tucci a small wave, he saw his academy sensei Iruka sitting alone in a booth. Evening Iruka-sensei. Naruto said, giving the Chunin an honest smile. Iruka was about to sneer at the boy, but stopped himself. Perhaps the Hokage was right about him, that there was more to him than meets the eye. Hey Naruto-kun, do you want to sit and eat with me? Iruka offered. Naruto looked taken back by the offer but nodded in compliance. Taking long strides, he walked over to Iruka's table and sat across from him. You want me to eat with you? Naruto asked. Yes, is it that strange? Iruka replied. Yeah, it never seemed like you really liked me during the academy years I was far from stupid even if I didn't get the highest grades. Naruto clarified, grabbing the bowl of ramen AM held out for him. For a split second, Naruto allowed himself to capture her entire beauty before cursing himself and turning away. AM blushed as Naruto's eyes averted away from her form as if embarrassed. Had he been staring? Blushing furiously, he lowered his hand down to the ramen and began to dig the fork in, spinning it around in the broth and wrapping the fork around the noodles and bringing it up to his mouth. After chewing the delicious noodles for a bit, he swallowed and looked into Iruka's surprised brown eyes. I'm sorry if I was it to you, Naruto. It's okay, I wasn't expecting you to be any different from everybody else. I'm sorry about your parents though, so I understand your uneasiness around me. Naruto explained. The scarred Chunin gave him a blank look before replying, I should have been better, simply because I know what it's like to be alone, to not have parents. But I was stuck too deep in my hatred of the Kyuubi that like the villagers, I pretty much passed it down on you, even if it was through mocking and jeering in the academy. Frankly, as soon as you came in I was about to glare at you when I started thinking about what Hokage-sama said to me, and he was right. You are different than what many believe you to be, even now. Iruka responded. A few emotions flickered through Naruto's face before he brushed them away casually. It's alright, I understand why things were like they were. I probably didn't help much either with everything I did. Naruto said, looking crestfallen. Though you could make it up by paying for my ramen. Iruka nodded. That sounds agreeable. Yada. Naruto cheered. 10 more bowls please. He yelled towards AM. Iruka's sweat dropped before his face fell on the table with a thud. 3. Team 7 you are assigned to a D-ranked mission. Your mission is to search and capture Tora the daimyo's cat. Nah. How many more times do we have to search for that baka cat? If I have to find that team it's going to be search and destroy. Old man, we've cranked out 46 missions in nearly 2 months, and all of them are chores. I'm tired of searching for that cat, I don't blame him for running away, I'd run away too if I had to go back home to that fat bitch. Naruto swore. Naruto. The aging Hokage said, puffing on his pipe to disguise his laughter. My apologies Hokage-sama. Naruto said, his head hung down. It's alright, I once was a genin myself you know. If you wanted a higher ranked mission you should have told us so. The Hokage reprimanded. Yosh, Lord Hokage, I want an A-ranked mission. Naruto demanded and the rest of Team 7 face faulted. I was thinking more like C-ranked, Naruto-kun. The Sandaime clarified. What's the mission Hokage-sama? Kiba asked. You are to protect a bridge builder by the name of Tazuna. Escort him back to Nami no Kuni and protect him until he finishes the bridge that he's working on. I can't stress how important this mission is to Konoha, since it would allow Nami to start their own import and export business, making us favorable in their eyes, so they could do business with us. Also over the next 2 years they plan on starting a village in Nami called Namigakure, and we'll need them as allies, so for everyone's sake, you cannot fail this mission. The Sandaime stressed to them. Hi. Sasuke, Kiba, Naruto, and Kakashi said simultaneously. In fact, here is Tazuna coming in right now. The Sandaime said, and an old man walked in, smelling sickly of alcohol. These guys are the ones who are going to protect me. You have to be shitting me, and look at the blonde one, he looks pretty stupid to me. Tazuna drawled, pointing his finger at Naruto. Naruto didn't take to that well and launched a kunai at him that embedded itself directly over Tazuna's head. Tazuna-san, I cannot stress how important it is for you not to insult Konoha shinobi. It could very well be your last mistake. Naruto growled out. Seeing this, the Sandaime puffed his pipe once more and muttered under his breath, apparently Naruto doesn't get what looking favorable for a client means. Seeing the kunai almost stab him in the head was enough to nearly sober up Tazuna. Holy shit, the blonde one's a hothead. Anyway, the rest of the bridge should only take me about 2 weeks, maybe 3 so if you don't mind, how about you pack it up and we can head out? Tazuna retorted. Before they could head out, Kakashi slapped the back of Naruto's head. Naruto turned around, ready to strike, but Kakashi grabbed his shoulder. You don't throw kunes at the client, Ataudo. He reprimanded, crinkling his eyes into a smile. Naruto grumbled, but nodded afterwards. Scurrying out of the Hokage's tower, Naruto ran towards his room, pulling out several storage scrolls and sealing a few sets of clothing into them. Making sure he had a full stock of shuriken and kunai before heading out towards Sasuke's room. Seeing the room was empty, he figured his roommate was out by the gates, probably waiting for Kakashi's late ass. Mumbling something incoherently about a certain jounin, the blonde genin formed a single-hand seal and disappeared in a flash of lightning, his upgraded version of the Shunshin. Minutes later, Tazuna and Team 7 began their trek to Nami no Kuni, the land of the waves. Since it was an escort mission, they kept quiet and moved along at a fast pace. Kiba, like usual, was carrying Akamaru in his front jacket, the cute puppy keeping his eyes and nose sharp, making sure there was no enemies around. Kakashi on the other hand, trusted his team enough to pop out his infamous orange-clad novel. Naruto and Sasuke on the other hand, had a hand on their kunai holster, constantly at the ready. Akamaru began barking as they stopped after 4 hours of traveling. What it is boy? Kiba asked, and Akamaru continued his frantic barking. Naruto saw this and walked over to Kiba and petted Akamaru's head to distill his fear. What's wrong Kiba? Naruto asked. Akamaru is saying for us to be careful, there is something out there. He said he noticed the smell a half hour ago and now it's been hitting him strongly. I'm noticing it now too when I focus chakra to my nose. Kiba explained. Naruto took it in and pondered for a second. He then turned around to Kakashi, who gave him a small nod. Tazuna-san. My comrades here are telling me that there are enemy nin somewhere around the area. We have been hired to do a C-ranked mission to escort you to Nami and protect you from thugs and bandits. When you hired us, did you know there would be nin involved? Naruto asked, activating his two-tomoed Sharingan. No, I didn't know. You are lying, these eyes do not deceive me. Why would you ask for such a mission for lowly genin like us? If we encounter any nin chunin or above, this mission would be easily classed as an B or A-ranked mission. For now we'll stick to B, so you can either pay us the difference now or we will drop the mission, for that is our right. Naruto growled out to the drunk. Please, you can't do that. Our village couldn't afford a B or A-ranked mission. This mission has left us poor enough as it is, if you guys abandon now, the whole country is fucked. Tazuna cried out sadly. You just don't get it. You could have asked the Hokage for help and he would have understood. I on the other hand, am not as sympathetic as the old fossil. We are genin, the lowest of ranks, and if we encounter shinobi of jounin caliber, we could all easily die. No wonder you were so hesitant to have us as your team. Naruto said as an afterthought. Please, I need your help. Naruto looked at Kakashi with disdain and nodded at him to take charge. With all due respect to Tazuna-san, it's not fair for us to take a higher ranked mission and then get shorted on money for it. If you want us to take the mission, you're going to have to offer us something or else we will return to Konohagakure. Kakashi said stoically, his face unrevealing of the emotions he felt inside. What do you want? Tazuna begged. Sasuke walked up to the bridge builder and gave him a cold glance. HN. If we take this mission, you will accept to our Hokage's terms for exports of goods. And to pay us back, the four of us will take a small chunk of stocks for the upcoming village of Namigakure. Not enough that it'll hurt the city, but enough that while you bastards get fat from the money, some of it will go to us too. Sasuke said. Damn, I hadn't thought of that. Naruto and Kiba thought at the same time. Kakashi couldn't help himself and let out a small giggle at the idea of it. That's outrageous. Tazuna cried out angrily. Kakashi snarled and grabbed the front of Tazuna's shirt. No, what's outrageous is that you hired 3 genin to fight off some enemy nin, they're straight out of the academy. I know they're good, and so am I, but if you don't agree and we encounter some A or S ranked missing nin, we're done with you. Kakashi warned him, letting go of his shirt, causing Tazuna to fall to the floor in a heap. Tazuna weighed the possible outcomes. If this genin team didn't help him, he could easily die and the bridge would never get built and his people would die one by one, Inari included. We're not asking for much, Tazuna-san. But we do need to know exactly what's going on in Nami no Kuni. Naruto offered. Fine, I'll agree to your conditions. Each of you will get 2% of the total income Nami makes. And as for what's going on, the problem is Geto. Tazuna replied. Realization dawned on Kakashi's face. Geto, as in the CEO of Geto Industries. Kakashi asked. Yes, basically, a year ago he showed up in Nami and stopped us from building our bridge and enslaved our people. After we completely submit to him, he wants to start his own village in Nami for his band of missing nin and samurai, getting them to export his slaves and drugs. If we don't stop him, my daughter and the females in Nami will be nothing more than sex slaves, and kids like my grandson will be used as containers for Geto's drugs. I'm sorry I lied, but please, I was expecting a team of chunin for this, I need your help. Tazuna begged. Naruto looked at Sasuke and Kiba who both nodded. Then over to Kakashi who nodded as well. Fine, we'll help. Exactly how much were you to pay me if I managed to kill Geto himself? I can bring his head to you for a small fee. Naruto asked. 500,000 Ryu to be paid over 5 years, not including what you'd get from your 2%. Tazuna said, smiling at the thought of ridding himself of the short bastard. Hi, I'll kill Geto for you. Naruto replied, to which Kakashi couldn't help but shake his head. What, I get to kill a bad guy and make some money too? Why wouldn't I do it? Naruto asked his sensei. If your father could only see you now. Kakashi whispered to Naruto. He probably would have done the same thing, I think. Naruto chortled. Now, we know thanks to Akamaru that there's going to be Tunin coming up ahead. Be on the lookout for anything suspicious, and we'll get him. If you overlook anything it could be your life. He said to Kiba and Sasuke. Sasuke grunted. Team 7 and Tazuna continued their trek to Nami, and the next morning Akamaru woke Naruto up by barking constantly. Seeing as Naruto had awoken before Kiba, the tiny white-furred puppy ran over to Naruto and began whining, climbing up on Naruto's stomach and licking his face. What is it, boy? Naruto asked, running his fingers through Akamaru's fur. Akamaru yipped a couple of times, and Naruto decided to wake Kiba up. Crawling low in the tent that they had set up the previous night, Naruto reached over to Kiba and shook him. When Kiba wouldn't wake, Naruto began channeling some lightning chakra and shocked Kiba, who woke up with a start. "Don't bite me there, Akamaru." Kiba yelled out, rubbing his eyes to stare at Naruto and Akamaru curiously. "I wonder what you were dreaming about, dog breath." Naruto chided, and Akamaru growled at him. "He's the one dreaming it, not me." Naruto replied, petting the dog's head and avoiding the tiny teeth that flashed at him. "Shut up, Naruto." "What's going on?" Kiba asked. "I don't know. Akamaru woke me up and he's been whining since. I think something's going on." Naruto explained. Akamaru ran over to Kiba and began yipping again. "He's saying someone found us. That Kakashi is battling someone outside," Kiba said, getting up to his feet hastily. Naruto did as well, jumping up to his feet and grabbing his kunai and shuriken holster, attaching them to his pants and grabbing his scrolls, shoving them into a few pockets before the two of them ran outside to see what was going on. Outside, Kakashi was battling a swordsman from Kiri. Naruto could tell as much from the hit that was cocked to the side. Naruto closed his eyes and prayed it wasn't a member of the 7 swordsmen from the mist. Before opening them, Sharingan activated. Kakashi seemed to be struggling with him, barely parrying the sword's blows with a kunai, his vision affected by the rapidly disappearing mist that had been hovering over the area. "Kurigakure no Jutsu," Naruto thought and looked over to his left, seeing Sasuke with a kunai in his hands, blocking any attempts made on Tazuna from the swordsman's clones. "Fuck me." Kiba whispered fearfully, as the killer intent coming from both nin was stifling in the air, causing Kiba to pant slightly. "Chill out, Kiba, go help Sasuke fend off any attacks on Tazuna, I'll help Kakashi," Naruto ordered. "Hi, Naruto Taichu," Kiba replied before he and Akamaru began sprinting towards Tazuna and Sasuke. Trying to determine the best strategy to take on the freakishly tall Jounin with his mammoth sword, Naruto gave up and decided on a frontal assault. Pulling some shuriken out of his holster and launching them at Zabuza, he grabbed a single kunai and sprinted ahead. His speed was unmatched by any genin as he appeared next to Zabuza in 3 seconds. Zabuza ducked the shuriken someone tossed at him before spinning around and kicking Kakashi in the face, knocking him back a few feet. Before Zabuza could make an attempt on Kakashi, there was a yellow blur, and his jaw was racked with pain as a black-clad blonde slammed his fist into his face with enough force to rock Zabuza's body. Before Zabuza could react, the short blonde had appeared in front of him and kneed him in the face, breaking his nose and sending blood gushing from it. Naruto went to kick his face in, but Zabuza grabbed his leg and kicked Naruto in the chest, knocking him back a few feet, slapping the water with a sickly smack. Naruto stood up and glared at the tall Jounin. "Who are you?" Naruto demanded. "If you must know, I will be your killer. I am Mamachi Zabuza, ex-Jounin and missing nin of Kurigakure. If you were wise, you'd run, but you won't, you're one of those stupid genin who simply doesn't know when to give up. So I will break you." Zabuza grabbed his sword and was about to strike when he saw a flash of yellow incoming and blocked the attack with his sword. "I won't die, not until I become Hokage and show the world they were wrong about me," Naruto growled, blood-red eyes staring at the missing nin. "You're fast, kid. Tell me your name before I kill you," Zabuza ordered. "Uzumaki Naruto, the next Hokage," Naruto replied, ducking a punch that Zabuza threw at him, his kunai grinding against the mammoth sword to prevent the sword from cleaving his head. "Sorry kid, but you'll never become Hokage," Zabuza said cruelly, grinning behind the bandages. "Even if you were an exceptional genin, you don't stand a chance against me. I am from Kurigakure and very exceptional with water-based techniques," Zabuza bragged, spinning around his sword to kick Naruto in the face, knocking him clean across the beach and into the water. "This is my domain." "Really?" Naruto said, standing up, wiping the blood from his mouth and spitting it to the side. Zabuza began running through a set of hand seals as he ran onto the water, chasing after Naruto as he was about to unleash his attack. "Water style. Water dragon jutsu," Zabuza yelled, and water began swirling about in the water before it began to rise, taking the shape of a dragon, and it rushed towards Naruto who did nothing. The water dragon flew towards Naruto and collided with him head-on. Knowing that it was it for the blonde genin, Zabuza began laughing until he saw a poof of smoke. Bird, dog, ram, horse, dog, dragon, snake, bird. Naruto stood on the sandy beach and as Zabuza turned around, he unleashed his attack. Lightning style. Shockwave. He bellowed and slammed his hands to the sand, sending electricity coursing through the sand and into the water, coursing its way to Zabuza. Zabuza screamed as the water he was suddenly standing on warmed up and he began convulsing as torrents of electricity coursed through his body. Kakashi appeared behind him and held a kunai to his throat. "Today you die." Kakashi growled out and slit Zabuza's throat. Naruto was about to cheer when he suddenly, instead of blood, water began oozing out of Zabuza's neck before dissolving into a Mizubunshin. Kakashi looked taken back and suddenly he screamed, "Naruto, jump." Before Naruto could do anything, Zabuza's sword cleaved right through his torso, cutting him in half. Blood sprayed on Zabuza's face. "You didn't think you were the only one with clones, did you, kid?" "No, I didn't, jackass," Naruto said before exploding into smoke, revealing it was another shadow clone. Hidden leaf style Taijutsu. 1000 years of pain, Uzumaki style. Naruto yelled, charging his kunai with lightning chakra before appearing behind Zabuza and shoving the lightning kunai into Zabuza's rear. "What the fuck are you doing?" Zabuza bellowed, but instead of letting it go, Naruto continued channeling chakra into the kunai, sending bursts of lightning into Zabuza as blood began to coat the kunai. "Call it an Uzumaki enema motherfucker," Naruto yelled, launching Zabuza up in the air, who flew up and landed on the water with a loud smack. Tossing the bloody kunai to the side, Naruto was about to storm to Zabuza again when the area was once again coated with a dense mist. Kakashi began to scout the area before shunning away to make sure Sasuke and Kiba were okay. Seeing they were fine, Kakashi disappeared, single Sharingan eye scanning the mist to find his Itato. "You got balls, kid. But you don't stand a chance against the demon of the mist. Do you know why I'm called that? Because when I killed 100 academy students in minutes without even studying there. I'm the best assassin from the mist and can kill you over and over with my silent killing technique," Zabuza bragged. "You aren't a demon, Zabuza. A deadly shinobi maybe, but not a demon. I'm a demon, Zabuza, and if you think for 1 second I don't know where you're hiding in the mist, you're clearly confused. You're just a kid, what do you know about demons?" Zabuza asked. "You heard about the Kyuubi attacking Konohagakure 12 years ago. The Yondaime Hokage couldn't kill it, so he sealed it within an orphan, within me. I'm a demon, you're nothing but a wannabe and you'll realize it soon." Zabuza was shocked by the kid's confession. "You want to work for Gato, a man who's enslaving a country and raping its women, that doesn't make you a demon, it makes you a bitch," Naruto shouted out, powering his chakra as it began flaring brightly, blue disappearing as red chakra took over, spiraling over Naruto's body and taking the face of the Kyuubi. "Oh no, the seal," Kakashi yelled, running through a set of hand seals, all 5 fingers lit up. Naruto began his hand seals. Ox, rabbit, monkey. Clasping his right bicep with his left arm, he began channeling lightning chakra to his hand. There was a surge of lightning, and Naruto struggled to control it as he charged at Zabuza, his hand lighting up as sparks began spattering about. "Naruto!" Kakashi yelled. But in his rage, Naruto was deafened to his cries as he disappeared in a flash, a bright blue flash following him as he charged in towards Zabuza. Several things happened at once. Just as Naruto made it to Zabuza, so did Kakashi, who slammed his lit fingers into Naruto's stomach where the Kyuubi seal was at. "Yuinjutsu. 5-pronged curse seal," Kakashi yelled, destroying the current control Naruto had over the Chidori. The Chidori slammed into Zabuza's heart and instead of killing him it shocked him due to the loss of chakra control on Naruto's behalf. The jutsu blew up, searing the 3 nin's eyes as they flew backwards. Naruto fell backwards unconscious and Kiba ran over to him to assist and as Kakashi sprinted towards Zabuza, numerous senbon flew and landed in Zabuza's neck. Kakashi looked up to see a Kiri hunter nin, more senbon in hand. Ignoring him for a second, Kakashi bent down to check Zabuza's pulse. There was none. The swordsman was dead. Kakashi slumped over himself once he made it back to the team, falling next to Naruto. "Watch Tazuna," Sasuke ordered Kiba as he charged at the hunter nin. "Who are you?" Sasuke demanded, sending up chakra to his eyes, just in case. The hunter nin saw the Sharingan and faltered for a second. "I'm a Kiri hunter nin sent to kill that scumbag," a slightly feminine voice called out. "Why wait until now?" Sasuke shot back, angry that the hunter nin had been coward enough to let them fight his battle. "Because I'm a true shinobi. Why exert energy in fighting him when he's at full power, when we have some very disposable genin here ready to help? Now if you excuse me, I have a head to cleave." The hunter nin disappeared in a swirl of wind and ice, appearing over Zabuza's body, and the two disappeared. Sasuke was pissed, royally pissed. Both he and Kiba had been so scared, they let Kakashi and Naruto do all the fighting, while they hung back and protected Zabuza. They were comrades for fuck's sake, and Naruto was a brother to him. He almost lost all self-constraint when he thought Zabuza had chopped him in half, but the mission was dire. The Hokage had given it to them in confidence, believing that they could do what was needed to ensure an allegiance with Konoha and Nami. Running over to Naruto and Sasuke's fallen bodies, he turned to stare at Tazuna, glaring at him. "This is what happens when you lie, we could have lost someone today. How far away is your house?" Sasuke demanded. 2 miles east. Tazuna replied. "Fine." Sasuke snapped, walking over to Naruto's body and picking it up. "Let's go, we have to heal as fast as we can, I don't think we saw the last of Zabuza," Sasuke replied, disappearing in a flash. Sasuke paced back and forth in the room, eyes alert in paranoia, waiting nervously for the enemy to strike. Tazuna had taken them back to his house to rest up, since both Kakashi and Naruto were passed out from chakra. Honestly didn't think he'd have it in him to mess with the likes of Zabuza or even the Hunter Nin right now, and that in itself was no easy feat to admit. Hiba had stayed up and they had taken turns on watch, where one would stay up for 12 hours, making sure everything was okay, and now Sasuke had relieved him of duty, and it had taken about 5 minutes for Kiba to fall sound asleep. Not that Sasuke could blame him, he himself had been tired when Kiba had first taken watch, the combination of all the stress and tension the battle with Zabuza had left him exhausted, physically and emotionally. He had faced a lot of things on that mission he hadn't wanted to admit to himself, even if they had been nagging away at the recesses of his mind for quite some time now. All this time he had honestly thought he'd been as strong as Naruto, or at least close enough, but Naruto had disproved that theory easily yesterday. It had nothing to do with physical strength. When it came to their abilities as shinobis, they were pretty even, but he had lacked courage yesterday as Zabuza leaked out all that killer intent. He could only stand there dumbfounded and attempt to protect Zabuza, though his traitorous mind had begged for him to kill himself before Zabuza could get to him. The Uchiha Sasuke had nearly killed himself because Zabuza had been on a different level. That man really was the Akuma no Kiri, the demon of the mist. All he could do was just stand there, one hand holding a kunai as his knees had buckled and his bladder threatened to lose control in his terror. But not Naruto. Knowing they were in a tight jam, Naruto had thrown himself into the fight when it had seemed hopeless. Kakashi had been disabled for a second, unable to fight, and Naruto had thrown himself in the fray, uncaring that the swordsman was an A-rank missing nin. Sasuke had done no such thing, he had panicked and nearly wet himself. What was it that made Naruto so different? He had almost killed him, right after he began leaking that foul demonic chakra, he had charged up an A-rank technique and almost killed the demon of the mist with the Chidori. Sasuke had barely gotten control over his B-rank technique, and Naruto had nearly killed a missing nin Kakashi hadn't been able to beat. Disgusted with himself, he walked all over the house over and over again, forcing himself to stay awake. To be the protector his comrades needed him to be. Both Naruto and Kakashi had been turning in their sleep, each of them mumbling things that only they could decipher. Sasuke figured it would take them about another day of resting before they actually got up, and all chakra exhaustion was nothing to play around with. So until then, he'd watch, he'd protect them from any enemy, because that was the right thing to do. And one day, he'd save his brother. He'd be strong for him and help him carry the burden that he shouldn't have had to carry, that was the job of an Itato. Sasuke himself couldn't imagine even now, putting the safety of his village before family and wiping the Uchihas out. That had been Itachi's burden and he himself had been Sasuke's age when he did it. So that meant he was weak, that he wasn't strong enough because he wouldn't have been able to carry that cross. Such a cross would have been too heavy to shoulder, but he'd make it. He'd become even stronger than Itachi, he'd save him. He'd redeem his older brother from the shame he had taken upon himself. Until then he'd never die. Hours passed and it was morning again, hell he hadn't even noticed. Had he fallen asleep? Or had he been so in the zone that he hadn't noticed the sands of time slow ebb away from the beach that was life? There was a slow creak and his hand flew to his kunai pouch on its own volition and had been about to throw it until he saw Izuna's daughter Tsunami peeking out from the door. "Sasuke-kun, have you been up all night?" Tsunami asked, her voice full of concern, her eyes dark brown with worry. "Chen." He grunted out nodding. Removing his hand from his kunai pouch, he stood up off the wooden floor. "Would you like me to make you some breakfast?" she asked, stepping into the room. Sasuke shrugged indifferently and strode over to the door and stepped out. "If you want to." He called out before striding over to the guest room in which his comrades were fast asleep. Hiba was asleep with Akamaru curled in his coat against his neck. Kakashi was a living corpse, looking exactly like his name, scarecrow-like in his sleep, and not moving. Naruto was squirming about, shivering. "Sasuke," he whispered. "Please help me, they're trying to kill me, please Sasuke, I'm not the Kyuubi." Reacting on instinct only, Sasuke walked over to Naruto's side and grabbed the lapels of shirt and shook him softly. "Wake up Naruto, it's just a nightmare." Sasuke said softly, compassionate eyes full of sadness and regret as he could imagine what Naruto's dreams were like. Full of terror, always on the run, as heartless villagers terrorized him for being the container of the Kyuubi. How had he pushed through? How had he not killed them or even unleashed the Kyuubi against Konoha? "Please not the eyes." Naruto sobbed out before giving a scream full of terror and pain. "Wake up." Sasuke yelled out, shaking his best friend. Naruto shot up off the bed and Sasuke stared into blood-red eyes, three-pointed shuriken spinning madly in Naruto's eyes as Naruto held onto Sasuke, tears welling up in his eyes. "Sasuke," Naruto cried out, shaking. "It's alright, dope." Sasuke whispered gently before pulling his best friend up to his feet. "You alright?" Sasuke asked genuinely. "Yeah, I'm alright team." Naruto replied before running his arm to his eyes to cover up his tears. Drying his tears, Sasuke now stared into Naruto's green eyes and the change was immediate, the nearly 13-year-old boy in front of him was a killer. Green eyes without emotion, shutting away the pain his dreams had revealed. "I'm going training." Naruto bit off harshly before turning and heading out of the room. "Wait, don't you want some breakfast?" Sasuke called out. Naruto didn't reply, instead he ignored him, something he never did. Shrugging away the voice that nagged in his mind, demanding that he chase his best friend, Sasuke instead walked over to Kiba and shook him gently. "Hey Kiba." Kiba woke with a growl as well as Akamaru. "What is it?" "Time to eat, mutt." Sasuke replied before leaving the room. Kiba fully awoke and remembered what Sasuke just called him. "Team, I'm not a fucking mutt." He barked out and Akamaru had to agree with a small yip. "Your name chooses to disagree, Inuzuka." Sasuke called out from the kitchen. "Whatever, fanboy. Do." Her body racked with exhaustion, Ino laid back on the grass next to Shikamaru and Choji. After training the two best friends would watch the clouds from a bench, but not today. Guy worked them extra hard since the Chunin exams were only a month away and he wanted to make sure he had a team that could ultimately win the Chunin exams and beat Kakashi's. Though Ino knew that was next to impossible. So rather than follow her comrades to the usual bench or go home and help her parents with the flower shop, Ino plopped down next to them, watching the clouds move and forcing her thoughts on Naruto. Her somewhat of a boyfriend. Her parents didn't really approve of him, simply put because he was the Kyuubi boy, a container for the powerful beast. They knew he wasn't a demon, but they also knew of the blind hate the villagers and shinobi held for him and didn't want that hate averted over to their daughter. After all, they took his eyesight. How much did you have to hate a person, know a child, to rob them of one of their senses? For a shinobi of Konoha to risk the ire of the Sandaime and take a kunai and bury them into a blue-eyed boy's eye sockets. Had it not been for the Konoha Medical Corps, Naruto would have remained eyeless and sightless. Now, he was one of the last four wielders of the Sharingan. She remembered their first date, she had asked him of course, simply because at the time, he didn't want anything to do with her. He was turning girls down left and right indiscriminately, he even turned down Hyuga Hinata for a second date. Yet she remained determined, passionate about her crush, until one day she dragged him over to Ichiraku and offered to pay. They had talked for hours upon hours and in the end, she managed to sneak a kiss out of him, much to the green-eyed boy's surprise. And slowly but steadily, the two began going out. They hadn't done much but go out on dates and make out, but it was enough for her. She knew she was only a preteen and way too young for sex, but she'd give it to him if only he asked. His only response was for them to wait until they were 15. She didn't know of too many guys that would have done that. Kiba sure as hell wouldn't, that stupid mutt had asked her out a year ago and tried to get in her pants even then. Yet Naruto was patient, a blonde enigma who didn't realize how he affected and touched people. Jade eyes swirling around in his sockets in paranoia, too afraid to let anyone get too close, afraid to lose the very essence of life. She loved him and she knew it, but he didn't. She'd just have to make sure he understood that when he returned from Nami. 3. Naruto sneezed a few times back to back. Someone must be talking about me, he thought to himself before scanning the area for enemies. IV. Naiyujito stared at the blonde boy in her view. Golden amber-like eyes peered at him with curiosity. What could she say? Curiosity killed the cat. She was 14, a Chunin of Kumagakure and the sole container for the Nibi no Nakamata. Her village had believed that being a Jinchuruki was a blessing, a human blessed with the powers of a powerful deity. Spoiled and arrogant she had become, on a simple-ass assassination mission to kill Mamachi's Zabuza and collect the bounty for it. Yet a team from Konoha was interfering in her business, so she had followed them, like a predatory cat waiting, hidden from view, waiting for the moment to strike. She'd follow them, because the trail to Zabuza had gotten cold, so these stupid Konoha fucks probably had the information she needed. But for some reason she couldn't budge off the branch she was currently hiding on, the Nibi sealed away inside her, beckoned her to stay still and not move the instant she laid eyes on the blonde kid. Probably a newbie genin from her estimation, yet there was something hidden about him, something foul and evil pouring off him in waves. She had walked in on the aftermath of the first fight against Zabuza and it lingered in the air like a foul stench, reeking and polluting the air suspiciously. Following the trail of chakra, she stumbled into a crappy bunch of genins whose Jounin sensei apparently had gotten the shit kicked out him. Before she could formulate a plan on how to carry out her mission, a whizzing sound sliced through air as a kunai grazed her cheek, her blood tainting the air. Jumping from the tree and into the clearing, she launched another kunai to block an incoming one that would have penetrated her chest and possibly killing her. Kuna's clashed with a resonating crack and she landed on some soft dirt before golden eyes narrowed in anger to the attack. The blonde genin stared at her, a smirk rising to his face, his eyes sparkling in predatory delight. "So, who are you and why are you watching me?" he asked gently before his voice took a more deeper baritone. "Speak up or I won't hesitate to kill you." "Cocky isn't he?" she thought to herself. Wiping the blood on her cheek, her lips pursed into a bitter scowl involuntarily. "Who do you think you are?" she asked before reaching to her kunai purse only to find another kunai flying at her face. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." The genin responded, sighing softly, as if ambushes were a daily occurrence. "Who the fuck are you?" he demanded angrily. "Naiyujito, it's only polite for you to give your own name, genin-san," she retorted before giving him a smug smile of her own. He stared at her headband, his sharp gaze leaving an undesirable feeling coursing through her. "So those old bastards didn't send you to kill me then, huh? I'm Uzumaki Naruto, and I suggest you run away now." The Obito and Minato-sensei Kakashi called out in his sleep to phantoms long past. Obito had died in a battle against Tawagakure, Minato had died sealing the Kyuubi, and Rin, she disappeared after the Yandame's death. Chances were she was probably dead now too. Kakashi held no forsaken chance of hope that his teammate was still alive. Turning over in the small mattress, the Cyclops opened up one bleary eye, nearly wincing in pain as it took in all the sunlight. "Kuzo," he whispered incoherently before yawning, closing his single visible eye and trying to go back to sleep. Every day he'd been plagued with his failings, on how he failed everybody, and it never ceased. So to make up for it, he'd stare at that hunk of rock called Hero's Memorial Stone and prayed to Kami that the deity would forgive him for his sins, his fails, and his blind arrogance that had caused pain across numerous families. Staring at the rock from sunrise, his would grow damp from absolution as memories flooded him constantly, reminding him of why he was the single survivor of Team Namikaze. He'd been a coward, an arrogant coward. He refused to save Rin when she needed him and been too cowardly to face the Kyuubi. Perhaps if he'd done more than quiver like a 12-year-old, his sensei wouldn't have died. He'd be alive right now and force the villagers and people to see that his son was not the Kyuubi, but its container. Those teams allowed their hatred to run wild, converting an innocent 9-year-old into a ruthless shinobi, hardened by his misery and suffering, that same hatred flowing wickedly amongst his veins. But perhaps it wasn't too late to save that 9-year-old boy who died miserably, dying to make way for a new child, a child born among hate, whose hatred was burning brightly, threatening to destroy Konohagakure no Sato with a flash of embers. Bye. If anyone should be running, it's you, boy, Yujito challenged before taking an offensive stance. Ignoring her quip, the boy took an offensive stance as well, with his knees slightly bent, ready to spring into action at any moment. "Please do not insult me by calling me boy, Yugi-chan," Naruto replied, but the quip was cut short as an angry blonde kunoichi slammed into him shoulder first, nearly taking the breath out of him as the two were sent rolling into the grass. "How is she that fast? I didn't even see her," Naruto thought as he willed himself back to his feet and stared the kunoichi down. "Whoever she is, she's strong. Don't ever call me Yugi-chan again," she yelled coarsely at him before baring her fangs. Naruto opened his mouth and bared his at her before forming his hand in the ram hand seal. "Sharingan," he whispered before his eyes turned blood red with two tomos spinning around in it. He began charging up his chakra, the air was dense with it before his gaze lingered on her face once more, then he phased out of view before reappearing in front of her, slamming his elbow in her face, jerking her head back, causing her to lose sight of him temporarily. Scowling to herself for being cocky, the blonde kunoichi braced herself for another blow, and it came as Naruto reappeared behind her, ramming his knee into the small of her spine, sending her shooting forward, her eyes closed in pain. Naruto charged again and was about to land a vicious spinning heel kick to her face when flames shot out of Yujito's and covered her body with it, surrounding herself in a tight globe of blue flames. Naruto's foot collided with her globe barrier and nearly yelped as his feet and sandals were burned from the intense fire. Cursing himself, he backed away, leaping with chakra. "Kuzo," he nearly whispered as he looked for a way to attack Yujito without getting burned. It didn't look possible as she was emanating fire from each of her pores, blue flames licking at her skin without burning her. It seemed to be some kind of offense and defense at the same time, which would only make this fight a bit harder. Staring at her with his Sharingan, he noted the legs were the weakest area for him to attack, the fire only covered her to about mid-thigh. Naruto peeled out a kunai and tied an explosive note around it before launching it at the pretty kunoichi. Did I just call her pretty in my head? Naruto thought, and the kunai was inches from reaching her face, but then a paw made of blue flames and chakra extended from her hands and batted at it, the blue flames lighting up the note before it exploded in a swirl of smoke, giving him all the time he needed. See, the kunai was just a diversion, it wasn't the actual attack, he just needed her to be blinded for a second to give him time to do what he needed. Charging up electricity to his hands, Naruto phased out of view again. Yujito was fast, she should be able to see him. Whereas the little son of a Yujito was interrupted as two hands shot out of the earth and grabbed the back of her calves, holding her in place. Putting her hands together in a ram seal, she began generating chakra rapidly and focusing it to her feet before bending her knees slightly and launching herself in the air, ripping Naruto out of the ground. Naruto let go of her just in time as she backflipped, landed and got through his defenses with a sharp kick to his face, sending him flying backwards. Naruto tried to twist himself in midair, but it was too late as Yujito grabbed him and slammed him face first into a tree. Blood trickled down gently from his forehead to form a small rivulet that slowly trickled down his eyes and nose, then slowing down past his lips. His face was racked with pain and he slowly tried to get up, but a kick to his ribs cut him short as he flew backwards, spittle flying from his mouth. "You bitch," Naruto groaned as he slammed into another tree, knocking it down. "You'll regret calling me that, Naruto-kun," she called out to him before running through a set of hand seals, Kaiten. "Kakaku no Jutsu," she yelled before arching back and gathering up the chakra in her lungs, then bending forward and blowing out a large fireball that vaulted towards him before slamming into him. Naruto screamed as he was being burned alive. Yujito watched him smugly before a sharp blow to her head sent her spinning. What the fuck? Turning around, she saw it was Naruto, with no burn marks whatsoever. Curious, she stared back at the spot the fireball was burning, and there was a Naruto clone. "Kage Bunshin?" Yujito asked him. Naruto responded with a kick to her jaw, nearly dislocating it as she crashed into the dirt. "Nope, a simple old Bunshin. Suiton. Water splash." Naruto replied, before launching an Suiton jutsu at her, small in size, it did nothing but wet her, coating her in water. "That was it?" Yujito said. "That's all it was supposed to be," Naruto replied. Yujito frowned, trying to think of why he would use such an ineffective Suiton jutsu. "By the way, Yugi-chan. I'm a Kage Bunshin," Naruto replied, but popping into a cloud of smoke. Yujito's eyes widened, but it was too late. "Raiden. Shockwave no jutsu," Naruto bellowed behind her a couple yards, slamming his hands to the ground, and lightning began to arc up from it and launch towards her. That's what the Suiton jutsu was for, she thought, realizing that this Raiden attack, combined with her already drenched self, could either kill her or incapacitate her. Neither one was an option, she realized. She couldn't fail her mission, she never failed one before and she wasn't starting now. "Hey Nibi, please give me some chakra. If you don't we'll both die, I don't need too much, just enough to beat this kid," she begged, hoping the Nibi would be compliant. Nibi's only response was a grunt before the seal on her stomach twitched. The twin arcs of lightning collided. Then ricocheted back at Naruto. "What the fuck?" Naruto asked, moving out of harm's way with a kawarimi. Blood-red eyes focused on the area that Yujito had been at, spinning widely in order to try to track her movements. Suddenly in her place was a large cat, slightly bigger than Yujito herself. Naruto realized that the cat shape was chakra, and if the vivid blue color was any indication as well, it was probably hot. Staring harder, he saw Yujito in the middle of the chakra, on all fours and one fire blue tail coming out by the rear. "She's a Jinchuriki like me," Naruto whispered, before dodging a fireball the cat fired at him. Suddenly he remembered something from just recently, something he copied with his Sharingan. Dodging fireball after fireball, Naruto ran through hand seals, and his fingers grew blue. He was maybe 2 yards from the cat when its paw knocked him back a few feet. Using all his chakra control, he kept hold of the attack, standing up and charging again, leaping over another fireball and sunshining in front of Yujito, who stood up to full height to attack, but not before Naruto slammed his fingers into her gut. The sealing jutsu did as it was supposed to, effectively cutting off the chakra from whatever kami-forsaken Bijuu happened to be sealed within Yujito. Yujito snarled loudly, her reserves drained and cut off from the yokai, before her eyes closed and she fell over unconscious, her face slamming harshly against the dirt. "Let's hope I did that right," Naruto thought, stumbling around for a second, his body tired from the battle. He really wanted nothing more than to sleep right about now. Bending down, he picked the vicious Kunoichi up and heaved her onto his shoulder before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. They arrived at Izuna's house 15 minutes later, and after surprising Tsunami who had been cooking in the kitchen, he stepped into her house and carried Yujito over to the room he'd woken up in. Kakashi was still passed out, and Sasuke and Kiba appeared to be gone, most likely protecting Tazuna at the bridge. Pulling a lengthy bit of ninja wire, he wrapped it around her, binding her arms to her side. As an extra precaution, Naruto strategically placed chakra-reactive explosive seals on her body. One on her forehead, one on her jugular and another on her sternum. She already had another two on her. Naruto had placed those on the back of her ankles during the fight when he used the inner decapitation jutsu, knowing damn well she wouldn't feel him there. But those reacted to his chakra specifically. She was going to be pissed at him when she awoke, not that Naruto cared, his body was littered with second and third degree burns from whatever the fuck fire she was putting out. After making sure she was properly binded and secured, Naruto left the room and headed up towards the kitchen where Tsunami was cooking at. "Tsunami-san, if you don't mind, could you tell me where the bathroom is at?" Naruto asked gently, before placing a hand on the back of his head sheepishly, giving her a fox-like smile. "Please, just call me Tsunami. Just head up those stairs if you want to get to the bathroom," she said, pointing over to her left to where there was a staircase. "It's the least I can do for saving my father, if you need anything else let me know," Tsunami said softly, giving the young nin an appreciative smile. "Hi." Naruto nodded, not used to so much kindness from strangers, though his face lit up in a blush. Tsunami laughed warmly, before shooing him out of the kitchen. Naruto headed on up the steps and into the bathroom where he took a good look at himself. His face wasn't too bad, except for the swelling and dried blood that was caked there. His torso was what really hurt. The fight had been far from epic, nearly anticlimactic, but it had taken its toll on him. Biju chakra was especially dangerous to humans, even Jinchuriki, and her fire was no different. Yet he had hesitated to kill her several times over. He hadn't activated the explosive notes which probably would have blown her legs off, and there had been opportunities to kill her, yet he hadn't. Was he going soft again? He had worked so hard to build a wall between him and other people, and no one besides Sasuke and Kakashi Niasen had gotten through. He was cool with Kiba, but didn't really know the Inuzuka, but everyone else had been shut out. Even the Sandame, one of his most precious people in the world, had been shut out for his deception and reluctance to help the son of the Yondaime when he'd been in need. Yet even before he realized Naruto was a Jinchuriki, he'd already been soft on her, despite her viciousness. What was she fighting for? He knew who he was Uzumaki Naruto, the son of a madman patriot who had sealed the greatest of Bijus in him, believing the village would adopt him and love him. He was a Jinchuriki, hated by all and loved by few, and no longer fought for recognition, for a childish dream of becoming Hokage, the village leader. He fought for survival. That's what made him vicious, because the hatred and contempt many had misplaced on him now ran through his blood. He wanted to make them pay, he wanted to watch Konoha burn. What a sight it would be for him to parade through the streets and slaughter them indiscriminately, with full coherence. Yet that would make him the demon they claimed he was. For so long he fought for his identity, as just Uzumaki Naruto, the container. Did he even fucking care anymore? Lately his lines of right and wrong seemed to blur into one, and nearly everything was in his gray zone. Killing didn't bother him, but becoming the Kyuubi did. Despite his hate for Konoha, he still hated the Kyuubi that much more. Despite his hatred of the Yondaime, his hatred for the king of Bijus was so much more extensive. His hatred for it was even more potent than the villagers. Because if that big stinking son of a bitch hadn't attacked Konoha and killed so many people, his idiot of a father wouldn't have had to seal it within him, and maybe he could have lived the life he deserved. He spent the next hour cleaning himself, jumping in the shower to wash the blood and grime off his body. After assuring himself that he was clean, he hopped out of the shower and unsealed a scroll that had a white guy outfit he sometimes used for training. Jumping into the white guy, he put his black shinobi sandals on and tied his hit-8 around his neck. The sleeves were cut off on the guy, as well as the bottom of the pants, since they'd been too long when he pulled them out of a dumpster, giving the guy a rugged, dangerous look to it. Leaving his spiky hair wet, he headed downstairs and blushed again when he saw the look he was getting from Tsunami. "Naruto-kun, if you didn't have that cut across your face or that bad swelling I'd probably force you into marriage." Tsunami joked, before walking up to Naruto and ruffling his still wet hair. "I love your hair, it's so soft and bright. In a couple of years, you just might have to return to Nami no Kuni." Tsunami continued teasing, before letting Naruto go who was scowling, his whiskers trembling from pleasure. "Stop that Tsunami-chan, you shouldn't jest like that," Naruto said, still scowling, though it was a pretense. Tsunami went back to cooking before calling out to Naruto. "Who says I'm jesting?" The thought alone was enough to get a small nosebleed out of Naruto who wiped it off quickly before she could notice. "Whatever." Naruto grumbled back at her, before exiting the kitchen and headed back towards the guest bedroom. In there to his surprise was Yujito awake and struggling who scowled at him once he entered the room. "Let me go, you bastard." "No thanks kitty, we got to talk Jinchuriki." Naruto growled the last portion out before walking over to Yujito. She squirmed weakly against her bonds. "Baby, I suggest you don't use chakra, less you want to blow yourself up," Naruto said, donning an impish grin. "Kuzo?" Yujito cursed. "What if Naruto grows stronger?" Council demands, and thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.